What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. I am not Ryan Ripken. I am Zach Bonder. Ryan will be joining us shortly. But before we get into who else is in studio, let's talk about what we got in store for you today. We're going to start off with talking some Ravens. Cam Newton made some interesting comments in regards to Lamar Jackson. We have, obviously, Kevin is just fighting for his life over there. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about with the Baltimore Orioles. A lot of all-star snubs, obviously, going to play the Chicago Cubs. Is there everything wrong, Rocco?
You're completely out of focus right now to start the show.
Maybe it's because someone's putting a golf club.
There you go.
Now
better.
We're back. There we go.
You.
Okay. Thank you. And so Master Steve Melewski will join us, and we are going to talk a crap ton of Orioles stuff with him. And if there's anyone who knows his stuff from top to bottom of this Baltimore Orioles organization, it is him. So let's get into real fast who's in studio. To my left, we have good old Kevin Ostreicher.
Sorry, it was a low bright in here. I'll take these off.
I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry, people. Kevin. And to my right, we have Rocco DeSangro. Rocco, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. It'd be better if Kevin would, just act like an adult for once in his life. But
when you're tired, you just have to bring energy. That's what I've learned, and I get yelled at when I don't bring energy. So today, I'm bringing energy.
Kevin only brings energy between the hours of like 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. That's like prime Kevin energy hours.
It's true.
Awesome. And while we're on you, Rocco, that's a very nice sign you have behind you from our friends over at I'm so sorry to our friends over at Adams Jeep that's a part of the but our friends over at Adams Jeep up in Aberdeen, if you go up there and get yourself a nice pre-owned Jeep and you tell them what, Rocco?
I don't want to say it.
And you tell them that you hate Rocco sucks, pretty much anything you watch the Ryan Ripken Show, you will get a $500 gas gift card. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it, guys?
Oh yeah,
Rocco.
And it's a non-price to pay.
Yeah, it really is. You're getting a gas gift card for something that you already think Rocco sucks. So it's just getting it out there. Rocco, any thoughts?
I hate Chuck. I hate you, Chuck. I'll always hate you, Chuck.
And we love you, Chuck.
And that is not how you treat your sponsors, Rocco. And that's why the saying is Rocco sucks.
Yep. And that is exactly why the saying is Rocco sucks. But let's get into our content to kick it off. And Kevin, do you want to take the lead on this one with Cam Newton? Kind of give a little head start, a little backstory of what happened?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of Ravens conversation for early July, but one of the conversation points, Cam Newton obviously has his podcast, the 4th and 1 podcast, and he talked about him and his career. He was asked a question, I think it was just a fan mailbag question, about who do you think is the best dual threat quarterback? Do you see yourself? Does Cam see himself as the best dual threat quarterback in NFL history? And he said, no, it's Lamar, and talked a bit about it. I think we have the video, right? We're going to play it. So we'll hear what Cam has to say, and then I will react on the other side.
I was having a conversation by a native of Baltimore. He was like, Lamar Jackson means more to the city than
That's the wrong video.
And that's a bold.
Yeah, Kevin, it's the wrong. That's the video you told us to.
No. It was. Hold on. Let me send it to you.
That is legitimately.
Hold on. I'll find it for you.
The show is.
That one is a good video, though. That one was that debate we had about Lamar and Ray Lewis, who means more to Baltimore.
Kevin, we pulled this up before, and you said, there's the video that I want us to play.
Instead of putting on your 7 pairs of sunglasses, you should have figured out that you had the right video, sent it in the chat, and then we would have started the show nicely. Ryan would have been happy. Instead, he's probably watching very upset with the way we're doing things.
No,
right now.
because you know what we can do? We can revisit that comment. This is what I do all the time. When nothing goes perfect, right? There are always mistakes that are made. So
you're a mistake, Kevin.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
simmer down. We're gonna.
Jeez. I'm down. I'm down. I'm down. Zach, 1 sec.
Is this Kevin? This the correct one? Here, everyone, we're reacting.
Yes, this is it.
Do you see or think of yourself as the greatest dual threat to ever play the game?
No, Lamar Jackson.
What? Why so? Why Lamar?
Well, Lamar's style is a little different than mine. He got big play, any play.
Yeah.
Yes, he got speed that I never had, and he's just electric. And then, like, I play the game more powerful. You know,
You're gonna run through you. They might run around you.
yeah, I can run, but I might probably get caught. Vic, Lamar, they ain't getting caught.
So let's talk about that. Cam Newton asked if he sees himself as the greatest dual threat quarterback of all time, and he himself says no, it is Lamar Jackson. So immediate kind of reaction from you, Kevin, then we'll go to Rock.
Yeah, I think they're different stylistically. And there was a conversation today that Luke Kuechly had about how, Lamar, he's, pain to get to the ground and tackle and keep in the pocket. But Luke ended up saying, actually, you can get your hands on him, you can bring him down. Cam will just run right through you. But Cam never had that top end speed that Lamar he talked about there, Michael Vick had. So obviously there's the 2 MVP aspect of things. Cam made a Super Bowl. Lamar has not to this point. I know that like when you're talking about made Super Bowls, Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl, and we know the discourse and the conversation around what that is. So, but I think to me, it's just so difficult because it almost goes back to the Mount Rushmore conversation of like, do we keep this for players who aren't playing anymore? But is Lamar already past Cam Newton? Because prime Cam Newton was a dog. The Cam was good, but that prime didn't last 10 years for Cam. It was kind of like he's here and then he wasn't. With Lamar, I think there is more sustained success. So, I mean, I'll probably pick Lamar here. I know Cam was being pretty humble in saying that because I think Cam is one of the all-time dual threat quarterbacks. I think when you talk about it, you automatically go to Lamar, you go to Vic and some of those guys, Steve Young. But Cam is certainly in that conversation. But I just think with Lamar, even though he is only 27, he's only in year 7. I do think the success, the MVPs, and obviously the records and the accolades are stuff that you can't, you can't ignore. Although Cam was great in his prime and in his heyday.
There you go. Thanks for unmuting me, Zach. There. But no, Kevin, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with what Cam's saying, because if you look at Cam, if he had the size to be more powerful, like if you hit Cam as a linebacker, even you were going to feel it, because he's a big dude. Like he's got the size, and on top of that, he's got speed as well. But when you're talking about the top line speed, I'm not going to chase you down and catch you speed, Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick are the first 2 players that come to mind when you think of that at the quarterback position. And it's no coincidence that you look at the stats, you look at the numbers. Lamar Jackson already in his career, he's got 2 MVPs, okay? And he doesn't just do that from rushing the ball, while that is a big part of his game. He's great throwing as well. And that's the underrated part of his game that people are like, oh, that's why he was called just a running back at the point in his career. Like that's what the narrative was. It's like, Lamar Jackson's a running back. No, he's not. He's a very talented runner at the quarterback position, and he does a fantastic job of it. When we're talking about rushing yards all time from quarterbacks, Michael Vick's at the top, 6,109 yards, okay? Second is Cam Newton, 5,631 yards. Lamar Jackson, he's 4th behind Russell Wilson, 5,258 rushing yards for a quarterback, okay? So this season, he could not only pass Cam Newton, he could pass Michael Vick and take that top spot all time. I wouldn't put it past Lamar to do that. On top of that, you look at Lamar, he holds the NFL record for single season rushing yards by a quarterback with 1,206. Okay. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about Lamar Jackson. Is he the greatest dual threat quarterback of all time? He's either 1 or 2. For me, he's number 1. For many, he could be number 2. So looking at Lamar, what he's done, it's been fantastic. And he's got so much of his career left to be played. So it's when we're, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, looking back at what this guy brought to the game and what he was able to accomplish, not only with his arm, not only with his legs, we're going to be talking about one of the best players to ever play this game. He does a fantastic job.
Yeah, and I like what Cam put where he talked about their different kind of running styles. He said, "Yeah, I'm this big." Do you guys hear something as well? But
yeah, it might be the air.
Yeah, I think so. But he talked about, yeah, I'm this big guy that linebackers are going to try to avoid. Like, it's not going to be fun running into me. But once he got past you, people were catching him. He's like, yeah, I get caught all the time. When Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick went past you, that was it. That was it. They were beating you to the end zone. And right as this happens, Justin.
Legend.
Appreciate it, Justin. 5 gifted Ryan Ripken Show memberships. We appreciate you as always, Justin. So let's try to figure this out real quick. Testing.
It's you.
It's just my mic.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think it's just my mic.
Is this mic plugged in by chance?
No, I already took it off.
All
right, so let's kind of move into our next topic for today, and it's going to stick in the NFL, and unfortunately, it's more sad news of the passing of Kyrie Jackson, who was selected in the 4th round, correct, Kevin?
Yep, 4th round.
Of this year's draft by the Minnesota Vikings, was killed along with 2 others, I believe, in a car crash. One player who played at Maryland?
Yes.
So just honestly a super sad moment, and it's another moment in the NFL and just in life where you realize that you never know what's going to happen. You never know how much longer you have on this earth. And these tragic incidents they serve as a humbling reminder that each day is so special and everything you do is so precious. So I know our one friend, Ryan, wants to talk about this. We'll have him join in a second.
Yeah.
But guys, obviously it's a very touchy subject. It's such a sad subject, but is there anything you guys kind of wanted to discuss?
Yeah, it's sad, not only for the game of football, but this community especially, because these are 3 PG County guys that were killed in a tragic three vehicle accident. And these guys were teammates at Wise High School. They were state champions at Wise High School. They had their whole careers ahead of them. And it's just a sad situation that happened because families are mourning, friends are mourning, and these guys, like their futures were so bright. You had Kyrie Jackson, who was the 4th round pick of the Vikings. He was a rookie. He just got drafted, man. Imagine just getting drafted, getting set for your NFL career, and it's all taken away from you just like that in an instance. It's so sad. And then you had AJ Litton, who he played at Florida State and Penn State, and then Isaiah Hazel, who was both at Maryland. I believe he was at Maryland for 3 or 4 years before transferring to Charlotte. So these are tight guys. Like, the road trips you take with your friends. You're in a car with your friends. You're having a good time. And something like this happens and you never expect it to happen. So just a tragedy. It's sad. And it's just an unfortunate situation. So on the Ryan Ripken Show, we're thinking of the families of all 3 players who were killed and just thinking of the community as well, because just a sad and tragic situation.
Yeah. And I had the opportunity to speak to the Locked On Vikings host when, doing my show for today for Locked On NFL. And I kind of want to echo some of the stuff that he said and just kind of go into who Kyrie Jackson was, because it was one of the best stories, if not the best story in this draft, where he was someone that was a standout in high school, but didn't have the grades to go on and play in college. Had multiple D1 schools that were interested, but just didn't have the grades. So he ended up not really, didn't pursue that for a little bit, worked in a deli for a little bit. I actually was trying to go pro in 2K, NBA 2K. It made it up to, I think, the top 250 or something along those lines, was preparing for the draft of NBA 2K players. And he ended up telling his family he was still in school when all this was happening. But he realizes this was happening. He's like, oh, I'm going to have to tell my family that, like, I'm not playing and football's behind me and this is what I'm doing. So he said, if I'm embarrassed saying it, I might as well, get up and do it again. So he ended up going to community college, Fort Scott Community College, I believe it was. And then he played receiver, ended up going to corner, and he became the top junior college prospect, ended up going to Alabama, then went to Oregon. And he's someone that, again, it just reading off what his coaches, teammates had to say about him, a bright light, someone that makes an impact the second he walks in a room. And I know it's all the like cliche stuff that you almost hear, but this was true about this guy. And like, it never gets easier. I mean, if you guys remember it, and no two situations are the same, but the Ravens with Trey Walker all those years ago, he died in a motorcycle accident before his career could take off and in his hard work. So it never gets easier. And it's a touchy, uncomfortable subject, but it's one where you have to honor and remember and talk about it. And I think it's important to remember, obviously this goes far, far, far beyond football. It's about the person Kyrie Jackson was, and it's tragic all around, obviously not only for him, but the others that were killed as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is it's not just about football. It's, people lost family members and stuff like it's that stuff where you realize it's bigger than a game. It's not just, the Vikings lost a 4th round pick. It's like people lost a brother, people lost a son, a cousin, like it puts everything into perspective. I think our guy behind the scenes, can we get a thumbs up? Are we all right? Yeah. So welcome to the Ryan Ripken Show. Ryan Ripken.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Are we?
Yeah. Yep. We're good.
We're good for now. Well, hey guys, appreciate you. I'll explain a little bit of my situation here in a moment, but to echo the sentiment, it's wrenching to say the least, especially when you look at the journey someone goes through. And you know what? I know there was one video that went out there, and we're not even going to discuss that because it's insulting, infuriating. But one thing I wanted to touch on is the journey of young adults, young men, women trying to find your way. And I think for me, what is gut wrenching is you see a guy like Kyrie that looked like he was finding his way, had an unbelievable opportunity, and in an instant, everything is gone. And you never get to see what that book would have looked like. And it's just a reminder how fragile it is. And also for everyone else out there, the reports aren't fully out. They think alcohol was involved in the not for him, but the driver that caused the accident. So just a reminder that your decisions can impact lives. So this is not trying to be a lecture seminar, but there's so many things that are out of our control. But what is in our control is what you can do to get behind a wheel and make a bad decision, drinking, driving. I that's a whole other different topic, but you guys see where I'm going with this. But don't take a day for granted, and tell people again that you love them. Tell them that you appreciate them, and be willing to stick with people through all ups, downs, because in the blink of an eye, you don't know when you're going to lose that chance, not just in life, but don't be in that position where you left something unsaid. So I pray for the family. I hope they get through this, all families involved. It's, I wish I had a better thing to say about it. I think what you realize as you get older, and I don't know about you guys, I've lost friends younger, and there's the first time you realize you're no longer, there's no immortality. When you're a young kid, you think that nothing can touch you. And as you get older, you realize that how fragile life is. So rest in peace to the victims. And for everyone else, take care of yourself and be good to one another. So that's all I got on that. Switching back, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. And very
wow.
Well.
We are staying in it. So if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Guys, I am a little bit preoccupied. You can call me a world traveler. I'm not in studio, obviously, but we still are out there doing the show because, hey, we're showing up every day for you all. And for those that before we have our guests come on here to talk about baseball, talking about a lot of baseball, football is coming around the works here. Oh, yeah. We're going to have so much coverage, and we're getting in the midst of finishing up the Kevin and Zach Reacts, which you guys, I know, watch the post game. It's after every Orioles game and for Ravens games. We're going to have things going on there. So keep you updated on that as part of the Ryan Ripken Media. Obviously, the show we're doing every Monday and Thursday. And it's July. Rocco's heard me say it. Like, we're not talking trades. Well, now we are. Now we're talking about how we're here. The team. We're here. And I think we're going to have an honest conversation. Our guest is going to talk about maybe some snubs on the Orioles. But let's do a quick state of the AL East. When everyone thinks it's terrible for the Orioles losing to the A's, go look at the New York Yankees that have now lost, correct me if I'm wrong, they've lost their last 7 series, or they have not won their last 7 series. Is that correct?
They have not won their last 7 series. So I would assume, unless there's been a 4-game, but yes, they have not won. And just to put that into perspective, the Orioles have lost 6 series this year altogether, combined, like throughout the year. So that is 7 straight series the Yankees have been unable to win. They are 15-5 in their last 20 games, and honestly, it's one of those situations where the Orioles are 11-9 in their past 20. That includes the 5-game losing streak when the world was over. We threw the season out. If you guys were there on the post-game show, speaking of, you were there. Me, Kevin, and Ryan, we threw the season out. We said it was over. We said it was done. We even let Ryan Mountcastle know the next day. And when we talked to him, we said, hey, don't know if you heard, season's over. But ever since then, the Orioles have gotten back on track. They now have a 3-game lead in the AL East, and it feels like some trouble in New York, Ryan? Anyone else? Any trouble? Rocco? Trouble in New York?
Trouble here. Trouble in New York.
Well,
trouble in New York?
Did you say trouble here in the studio, Rock?
Yes. I don't know what.
No, that's just a saying. Trouble here, trouble there, trouble everywhere.
Well, there is some trouble, and the one thing that Aaron Boone's going to say, which he's got to say, but it pisses Yankee fans off to go, everything's in front of them, which he said over the last few years, which is
3 straight years.
3 straight years, and he's not wrong. But if you're a fan where you've had the same thing over and over again, that's going to drive you a little bit insane. They do have a bright spot, and I actually, for our Holy Shirts and Pants members, I just did a breakdown. Granted, I looked at it, it got a little bit blurry, so I might redo it, but a sneak peek into the Ben Rice and Heston Kjerstad breakdowns. We will dive more into that, but just context. Everything is better than you think. And for the Orioles, despite the injuries, despite what's happened, they are the team now that is gaining ground. Garrett Cole and Luis Heel have not been what they've been hoping. Garrett Cole, since he's come back, Luis Heel's trying to get back on track. And Ben Rice is their only hitter outside of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge that's producing for this team at the moment. Yeah. It's a team with a lot of issues, unlike the Baltimore Orioles, who are coming back from another West Coast road trip, and things are going well. So I think, can you guys still hear me? Are we good?
Yeah, we can still hear you. And I think it's good that you talked about football being right around the corner, because not only is football going to be here, but football is going to be here soon. The Stateside Cup is this month, baby. Kevin, don't give me that look. It was beautiful.
Good job.
Thank you. Stateside Cup is coming to Maryland this month, July 31st. Wolves versus Crystal Palace, July 31st at Navy Marine Corps Stadium, with the series trophy on the line. Competition will be fierce. Tickets on sale now. On sale now for just as low as $35. You can get those at statesidecup.com. So had to, get the little quick refocus. So statesidecup.com. We will all be there. Rocco, are you going to be there?
I'll be there. Yeah.
Kevin, you going to be there?
I will be there.
I'm going to be there. Ryan, you going to be there?
You know it.
Boom. There it is. So we'll be there. We would love to see you guys there as well. Boom. I'm going to have to keep doing that. But
you're going to have to keep doing it.
I know. I've accepted it all right. But I think it's time to move on to our guest, Ryan, don't you think?
Yes. I mean, just so in case my Wi-Fi goes out, just go ahead real quickly, introducing our guest, because we have a lot to talk about. Then I'll hop back in. Go ahead.
Awesome. So everyone, please welcome our guest, Steve Melewski. I'm sure you've seen him a million times on Massim, on the internet, all over. So welcome in, Steve Melewski.
All right. Hey, Steve.
What's happening, gentlemen? Thank you.
Hey, Steve, can you hear me okay?
I can.
That's great. You know what? I'm navigating out. Usually I'd be in studio, but I can't miss an opportunity to chat with you. Appreciate you taking the time. Where should we take this from the top? I think the hot topic was, and you had some great tweets about it. I think a lot of Orioles fans were thinking there could have been other players that were deserving of the All-Star game I guess right off the bat for you, surprising across the board that only Corbin Burnes was selected after Gunnar and Adley are starting the game.
It was a little surprising. The Orioles seem to be doing so well in the voting, right? You had Mounties leading Vladdy, even Ryan O'Hearn is a finalist, and then none of them win except the two, we figured we're going to win. And then you don't even get Craig Kimbrell in. And so Major League Baseball put out a press release last night, which is where I got my information, the number of players from each team. And I started looking, 7 Phillies, 6 Dodgers, 5 Guardians, 3 Orioles. What's wrong with this picture? They're one of the best teams in baseball. They've beaten a lot of the best teams in baseball. They beat the Phillies head-to-head, and they have 7. The Orioles have 3. So one fan said, why are you complaining? The good teams have a lot of players. I said, first of all, I'm not complaining whatsoever. I'm pointing out facts, and the facts are one of the best teams in baseball has 3 and 4 or 5 teams have more. So that seems like an oversight. And then the MLB release noted Major League Baseball had 6 American League picks. And usually this is where they make sure every team has one. That's how Isaac Paredes got in through Major League Baseball. They picked Clay Holmes. The Yankees already had guys in the game. They didn't need to pick a Yankee. And if they were going to, his stats are blown away by Kimbrell. I'm looking at this going, what? You're Major League Baseball. You do this for a living. Who over there looked at Kimbrell's stats and Clay Holmes and said, Clay Holmes is more deserving? I don't get it.
Well, who looked it over was Major League Baseball. That is for sure. And you know what? And I know, Rocco, you have a question more specifically with Craig, and then I'll follow it up. But Rock, this is what you and I talked about last night. One of the topics involving the Orioles.
Well, first of all, Ryan, before we went on air, you texted me and you said, I can't wait for the pop when Craig Kimbrell's an all-star, because we were both under the impression that Craig Kimbrell would be an all-star. I think everyone in Birdland with the season he's having, despite that little bump in the road early on in the season, Craig Kimbrell, sorry, I always have trouble saying his name, Steve. Thank you for joining us, by the way, has always turned it around. So, Steve, when you saw that initially, it's funny because I saw Jim Palmer's tweet. He goes, let us get something straight. I have no animosity towards Clay Holmes. I think he is a premier closer. I think we would all agree that he is, despite the animosity towards the Yankees for this fan base. But Kimbrell just deserves it more this year. I'm sure you would agree. I'm sure a lot of your colleagues would agree, and this fan base would agree as well. So why do you think that decision did end up happening? Like what gives?
I can't explain it. I'm just trying to see what they saw there, because if it was a player from a team that didn't have a player, you could say, well, okay, Team X needed to have a player, and their reliever was their best guy, and he wasn't as good as Kimbrell, but they had to have one guy. But it was a Yankee; they had players on the team already. So I don't get it at all. I'm just so impressed with Craig Kimbrell. I mean, it was a bump in the road, man. It was a major pothole. I mean, he lost a closer's job. He's pitching the 7th inning. He gave up like 7 runs in 3 innings. If you could take his statistics and take out that 7 or 8 day stretch, they might look like Zach Britton from a couple of years ago. The guy's been amazing before and after. And it was 7 or 8 days. And he had the back tightness then. So there was a physical issue that I think definitely, and he said it too to me, contributed to that slip up. But he's got it locked in, and Oriole fans have been worried about him from the day they signed him. And I think for the most part, he has answered every question.
He's been dynamite. Steve, I did a breakdown of him, because I was looking at it. Everyone was really upset about that Oakland series and even the Nats game. But I was looking at it and I'm going, you know what? I think that people underestimated the injury that he was dealing with. And Craig is a veteran that is going to get the nod of, hey, can you battle through or not? And I'm sure that they're going to let him try to figure it out. The other part of it was, I didn't see a guy that was lacking stuff. He just seemed like a thing was off. Guys took some tough pitches, and then they made him pay with some mistakes, but nothing deterred me on that personally. Now, I think what's frustrating, I'm glad you mentioned it. So for those that are probably wondering about the commissioners, each team has to have an all-star represented. So just to clarify that for people, so some of these bad teams, yes, like the Chicago White Sox, even though you're going to say Garrett Crochet, these teams are going to need all-stars that wouldn't necessarily be on the team. And unfortunately, the Orioles had that stretch, Steve, where they probably wouldn't have had an all-star on the team when they were playing some really tough years. So the context there. Can we real quickly before we go into some other topics with it, but Westy specific, I think was a name that I really wanted to see. I love the guy. But it seems like to me that they chose positions directly behind the starter. So for instance, instead of Westy being at third, Rafael Devers got the vote, which I don't think we're going to argue. Rafael Devers, stud of a player. It was the Marcus Semien move. And Semien is predominantly a second base. It seems to me, Steve, that MLB didn't categorize Westy to be that second baseman. Do you think in that that's kind of how I'm looking at it? They just had a reserve for each player. Bobby Witt Jr., shortstop, Naylor at first base. Do you think that this system's a little bit flawed, or do you think it's just because it's a popularity test with the fan vote, and then players, executives, and the MLB is going to have a different take? Is that just where it's so misaligned?
I think they've kind of overthought this thing. I don't think anymore the average fan and maybe half the media doesn't understand how this process works.
Yeah.
Players vote guys in, the fans vote guys in, the league adds guys, then guys drop out, and you add guys after injury. The whole thing is kind of messy. And I don't think we have a real handle on. We used to just punch our ballot at Memorial Stadium and hand it to the usher, and they pick the team. And so it's not like that anymore. And I think Westberg got hurt by Paredes because I think he's the only Tampa Bay Ray, and he's been playing mostly third. So it looks like they took 3 third basemen, counting Ramirez as starter, and his numbers are as good as Paredes. They're not as good as Devers, but he has a case against Paredes. And that's one you could say, okay, they had to have a player. To me, Kimbrel's more egregious, but Westy deserved to be in there too, man. What a season he's having, playing 2 positions, 840 OPS, really special.
Yeah, and he was everything that probably fans weren't expecting, but guys being around knew the talent was there, just needed the opportunity. That's a word or a phrase a lot of people have said about these prospects. A couple other names I would have been cool with, Steve. Gaddis on the Guardians, relievers having an excellent year. Jax on the Twins, and Kenley Jensen. Kenley could, if it wasn't Craig, and you said Kenley was in, go look at his numbers, everyone. I mean, you'd say, all right, tip your cap. And ironically, Steve, the old closers that might be washed are still the ones getting the job done at the end of the day. Maybe I'm crazy, but maybe it's a reminder that closing games out isn't as easy as it seems. Where do we want to go with this next, Steve? You doing well? Are you able to relax a little bit on your off day or no?
Well, this last week has been a little more relaxing for me because my colleague Rock Kabako is on the West Coast for all of it. So it's rare. Right. It's rare I'm sitting on the couch watching the Orioles. I'm usually on the road. But this time I was able to go to the minor leagues twice. I was at Ripken Stadium and I was at Prince George's Stadium. So I really enjoyed that. As you guys know, I love the minors. I wish my schedule allowed me to cover it more than it does. And so whenever I'm there, man, I just feel at home. I interviewed that kid, Messiah. I've talked to him 5 or 6 times now. He's just a delight. He lights up the room with his personality. Mercado interprets for him, yes, but still, his personality comes through. I think when this kid gets here, fans are going to fall in love with Messiah. So I discovered the Aberdeen Ironbirds have stolen more bases than any minor league team in full season ball. That's 120 teams. Aberdeen is number 1. They've got over 200. They got a bunch of guys with 30 steals. And, you talked about a kid, Dylan Hyde at Bowie, who throws a knuckleball. I never knew that. And he's having a great year with a low 1 ERA. So when you go to these minor league stadiums and you spend all day there and you talk to the people with the team, you really get a feel for who's doing well beyond just what you see on the stat sheet. So I really enjoyed the last week.
Yeah, you can't box score watch, right, Zach? We've talked about this. You can't be box score watchers. And it's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because I'm enamored with Sam Basayo's bat. I think that it is something that it's for 19 years old. and how hard he hits the baseball consistently. And we can ask you, I guess, because it's Aberdeen too related, but I want to finish with Sam Basayo. I don't think the Orioles can move this guy personally. I mean, this guy to me seems like when we're looking at great talented players, the Orioles have him. He just seems like he's another one in line that like a can't miss candidate. Do you feel that certain way when you watch him play down there in Bowie?
Well, the Orioles have told me for 2 years now, they see progress in his catching. And I don't see him play enough on video or in person to give a real fair opinion on his catching. I talk to people who talk to people and some scouts, and there's differing opinions on that. He's a big guy, but so is Wieters, so is Adley. There are big guys who catch, who do it. And he really, really wants to catch. He is determined to prove the doubters wrong. And his arm, some scouts tell me, is better than Adley today. And it's accurate. So this kid can throw. His game calling is coming on. When I was at Bowie the other night, I lucked into a great video. I happened to be, shooting on my phone. I said to the guy next to me, if this kid could hit a homer now, this would be really great. And about 10 seconds later, he hit a ball 420 feet with 109 exit velocity. And he really bat flipped it. He kind of really styled it a bit. And that's what a lot of the young kids do now. Those of us of my age get off their lawn. This is how it's done, minors and majors. So I'm not going to act like that. I wouldn't do it that way, but he did, and that's fine. The kid can flat out hit. He is one of the top 20 prospects in baseball, and he's going to be an Oriole someday before too long. Not this year, I doubt it, but maybe next year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The position-wise, and for everyone saying for Adley, by the way, there's a shelf life how long Adley's going to catch. Right? Can you hear me still, Zach? Am I still?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. That's great. There's a shelf life. Even if he's able to catch for 5 more years, that's fantastic. Once you get into your 30s, it's a little bit harder. For Sam Basayo, though, you're right. Bigger catchers, there are other issues that you can have. Can I ask you then on Aberdeen on the Enrique Bradfield Jr. side? Because that's another name that people are looking at. And Tristan McKenzie, when the Guardians were in town, talked about, he grew up with him, the speed, the ability to cover ground in the outfield. He's been banged up a couple times. Can you give an update on last year's first-round pick for the Birds?
I think he's doing fine. He had 1 or 2 balls he drove to left field for hits when I was there. I think, and I interviewed him in spring, one of the nice things about Bradfield is he knows his game. He knows it's not power, obviously. He's got to hit for a high average. He's got to get on base. He's got to have good plate discipline and play great D and steal bases. He brings a lot. He doesn't bring power. So he's kind of an outlier for an Oriole draft pick, right? All these guys they draft are big boppers, Kjerstad and Mayo and Beavers and Adley and Gunnar. We go back years. They drafted boppers, man. And this kid is not that. So they kind of took a flyer on someone who's a little different, who could be that top of the order guy down the line, but he's really got to keep going. I wonder if he's going to hit enough to make it. He can run well enough. We know that. He can defend well enough. And we're just going to see how his bat plays as he moves up.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing that people are going to say, because it's a different style than the other, higher prospects. The other higher prospects, and Zach, there's another prospect that is young and hits the ball extremely hard and far, and I think has done everything to get to the big leagues, or everyone thinks he should be there. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I think you have an idea. He's a massive individual.
Yeah, Steve, kind of the hot topic right now. To start the year, it was all Jackson Holiday. That's what people want to talk about. But now it's kind of totally shifted towards Kobe Mayo. So from what you've seen, maybe it's this year or throughout the years, what are your takeaways from Kobe? Should he be on this team? And how fast do you think he could get that promotion to come to Baltimore?
I mean, he could be one of those guys like Adley, Gunnar, Jackson that you want to clear the decks for playing time when he gets there. He's not back and forth playing twice a week. So how do they do that is a question. is the defense ready? Because defense is so vital to the Orioles. I mean, we know this kid, maybe he can hit 40 home runs, but if there's miscues at third base, that can be an issue over time. This team is airtight, almost everywhere around the diamond. So that's big for this team. And I think Kjerstad's made some nice defensive plays in recent games, and that's a feather in his cap. He's going to have to prove every night he can hold his own out there. And Kobe when he gets here too. I think the question for the Orioles these next few weeks is if they want to get a big third pitcher for October to group with Burns and Grayson. They thought Bradish could be that guy. He's hurt. They're going to have to give up something no one wants to give up. One of these huge names, if you're in the market for Crochet or someone like that, very good years of control. You've got to have a massive deal. There will be more buyers than sellers. That brings the deal up too. So are the Orioles ready to pull the trigger and move one of their premium prospects? Fans scream, no. And I get it, man. These guys look great. But then again, you say, where can you play them all? If you have an excess, that's how the game has worked for years. The good teams with excess trade from that to get something they need. And that's making your farm work for you in a way beyond just the player coming to your major league team. So some big decisions are ahead for this team. Kobe Mayo looks very ready offensively. I'm not sure about D. We're going to see. Kid worked hard on, changing his arm slot and some things over the last year or so. So let's see when his time comes.
Oh, yeah. So we finally got to the point where Ryan was having some technical difficulties. But I agree. The Orioles are going to have a lot of hard decisions coming up over the next 3 weeks now because the deadline is approaching. We've talked a lot on this show about you have to wait till July to really see what the team looks like, what you have, and then you start looking to deal. And that kind of goes into, Kevin, what you're about to ask, if you want to.
Yeah. Steve, you made a lot of really great points there. And even going back to it, I think the Orioles did make their farm work for them in that Corbin Burns deal when they had that excess of infielders and they decided, was Joey Ortiz going to get playing time with this club? They had a need for an ace at the top of their rotation, and they decided to get those prospects in the deal to get their ace. Now, we talk a lot about different prospects, and we've talked a lot about them here, but the Orioles, I know there's a certain level of panic within the fan base about the pitching staff outside of Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez. And with the trade deadline coming up, I know there are a lot of people that want to see them maybe go out there, get a starter, maybe some bullpen help as well. But with the way that some of these prospects are playing, I know that you can't keep everybody, but there are certain guys that you look at the long-term future, and they are definitely a part of those plans. And one name that I think is really caught on fire recently is Heston Kjerstad, who has come up and absolutely taken advantage of every single opportunity. To a lot of people, he's moved into that almost like untouchable prospect category. But do you think that the Orioles would be willing to move off of some of their top guys, depending on who the pitcher is, at this trade deadline?
I mean, I think if they want the biggest fish or one of them, then they have to trade one of their bigger fishes. And some people who have asked in baseball have concurred with that opinion. You're not going to get prospects 8, 10, 12 and get Garrett Crochet. That's unlikely. So you're going to need to go higher than that up your prospect board. So that's a very critical decision for the team. And I think they are also considering they're focused on this year, but they also realize John Means is not there on opening day 2025. Neither is Tyler, neither is Bradish. Corbin Burns could be elsewhere. So that's a big difference in your rotation as it exists today. And you have all winter to make moves there with that. But if you can make one that helps you now and then, I think the team is going to look at it. And if there's any team out there better suited to trade for a big fish right now, it's the Orioles. It's going to come down to, people say, are they going to be aggressive? I think they were aggressive last year. They just didn't get to the point to pull the big trade, the huge, the blockbuster. So I think they're going to be aggressive. It's a matter of where is their line where they go, okay, we'll do that. We don't want to, but yep, we're going to do that one. And sometimes you're aggressive, but it doesn't get to the finish line. So a lot of the trade talk we never hear about, we're never told about. but a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It would be a fly on the wall. Mike Elias's office would really have some interesting audio to present to us these days.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, look, I'm glad you brought that up because people were saying the Orioles didn't want to make moves. It's the asking price and who's available that I think people need to understand. So the reports last year, Steve, I know you saw them, that Dylan Cease asking price was what? Potentially for Jackson Holiday. Yeah, the Orioles are not going to take the bait there. They're going to stand pat. This year, who's available? If Garrett Crochet's available, what's the price tag for it? And also, Garrett Crochet, to me personally, Steve, feels like a guy that you're investing for 25 and 26. Yes, he could be a guy in 24, but doubled his innings, injury history. There's a little bit more to go with that. And if Scooball is available, well, then heck, yeah, you got to go get him. But it's the market that right now that I can't seem to figure out. And Texas is a team where you're hearing that they could be sellers. If they get closer, though, they might change that perspective here. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad that, see, Zach, I told you, I'm crazy. I'm nuts for different reasons. But I think people can hear Steve and go, hey, he's around there. He sees what's going on overall. So we appreciate that. Steve, a couple things before I get you out here. Man, I am sweating. Is it also like 97 back in Baltimore or no?
It's definitely
It's
brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
Good luck if you have black interior in your car. You're gonna burn your elbow real quick trying to get in. I've done that a few times.
It happened to me today.
Yep.
That's what I have, Rocco. So thank you for that.
Oh,
You know what, Steve? We'll have a fun one to end it, but I think, Rock, we were talking about, are there any options here within the organization? Now let's talk about this because, we're going to take out the Trevor Bauer conversation. I've already explained why I don't think the Orioles or any team's going to sign him. Let's look in-house. A guy like Chase McDermott, is he a guy you think could get an opportunity upcoming, or do you think that there's still some time for him to season down in AAA?
Well, I think ideally they'd like him to get more AAA starts, but if there's a need over the next few weeks, something happens and they need a starter, a lot of times, Ryan, as you know, whose day is it to pitch when you need a starter? If the guy started Sunday and you need a guy Tuesday, well, you can't get that guy. So sometimes it's the guy who's on rest that gets the call. But sometimes it lines up for a prospect. I think they really like Chase McDermott. I think he's made command issues. Yes, he had a first inning knockout here the other night. But for the most part, his last 6 or 8, better, big strikeout stuff. I think he's someone they're watching. And I also look at pitch counts. I see 90, 95. They've got this guy full out. He's built up. He's ready to go 100 if they got that call. And I think they've got him in waiting. He's on the bubble, maybe first up. Seth Johnson wouldn't stun me. He's at Bowie still, but this guy's pitching really well, and he's on the 40-man roster. I mean, remember, Manny came from AA. If the Orioles need a guy in August to win the East or to get them over the hump in October, they'll do it. Teams have done it before. We've seen guys who hardly pitched all year pitch in October. So keep in mind some of these names that they like a lot. It doesn't matter they're throwing 4 innings right now or Seth Johnson's at Bowie. If they like him as much as we think they do, it's in the realm of possibility that he's in their thoughts too.
And Steve, real quick, talking about Chase McDermott, do you think there's any possibility? I know we just talked about him coming up if needed for a starter, but with his strikeout ability, could you see them potentially down the line saying, yes, in 25 and plus, we see you as a starter, but we need bullpen help right now, whether it be September, August, whatever. Could you see them making a move to adding him to the bullpen?
Possibly you could see that. I mean, the command worries you in a late game leverage situation, but maybe he's a multi-inning reliever, a guy who could pitch when you need a guy in the 5th or 6th and give you 2 or 3 innings, a bridge to the back end guys. So, I mean, anything's possible. Again, you're trying to win this year. You're trying to win the division this year. You're going to make moves in the second half that are necessary moves to make the team better. And they might not be conventional. I think for the most part, they like guys they've groomed as starters to come up and be starters. But there was a day back in the day, the Orioles didn't do it that way. I mean, all those guys started in the bullpen. So go back to the future with Chase McDermott. It's possible. And, you know, any role is possible if they think he's ready for it, and it'll help.
I'm with you. I think it's really all hands on deck once you get to that point. And I think that's something that, and I think the Orioles are more aggressive, at least with their own players and going out to look for players than they get credit for. I truly believe that. You know, Steve, it's crazy. I know I got to let you go here in a minute, and I got to ask you a fun question. It's a mandatory question, but you know, we literally didn't talk about the number one prospect for the team. I mean, has it felt like for Jackson Holliday right now? And I actually think, is it safe to say the lack of attention for Jackson could actually be could that be helpful for his development? Because now he can really just focus on being a 20-year-old and learning how to figure everything out at AAA. Because I felt like people had the expectation, Steve, he was going to come up here and be just as good as Gunnar Henderson. And that's no knock to Jackson. But Gunnar Henderson is, to me right now, I would rank him. He's the number one player for me, position player wise in baseball. And I think that's a hard thing. Would you agree that Jackson Holliday, nothing's changed as far as his trajectory on what he can do for Baltimore down the road in the future?
I would agree. And I think Gunnar being number one in wins above replacement, both Fangraphs and Baseball Reference, is really a feather in his cap, because there's guys who are OPSing 1,000. We know who they are. And Gunnar's all-around game puts him to top. So I'm with you there on that, Ryan. And I think Jackson, his prospect status, maybe it take a bit of a hit. Baseball America dropped him to number 2. In the long run, that's not important, what he's going to do at the big leagues. And I just see this kid's confidence took a hit. It never has before now, but he'll get it back. He'll figure it out. I hope he doesn't change a lot, because I don't think he needs to. That leg kick, I think he can still do it. I saw him get the velocity in spring, and to me, when it's 97 in Clearwater, is the same 97 in May in Camden Yards. I think this kid can get the velocity. Gunnar Henderson told me when he struggled at Aberdeen, he once went 1 for 31, believe it or not. He changed something every day, and he did the exact wrong thing. And he learned from it, and he now knows stay with what you do well. And I hope Jackson does, because I think he's electric. He will be for the Orioles. Will he be Gunnar? That's a high bar, but he might be Gunnar light. You know, I mean, this kid can really play. He can play defense. He's fast. He's savvy. He's not intimidated by anything on the baseball field. And anybody writing him off, you do that at your own risk, because I will not. I believe Jackson Holliday has good days ahead of him, probably this year in the big leagues. I don't know how or why or when that unfolds, but he's too good, and he will show that again.
I love that. You know what? It sounded, you described them, sounded like, you know, peak performance for Kevin Oestreicher in T-ball and Rocco DeSangro in slow pitch softball. But Rocco, what was the one thing that we talked about with Mike Elias here about failure? Wasn't that a constant thing about having to handle failure? Can you just I want to? And I'm sorry, Steve, we're taking this over. You got me going on this, and your passion with it has got me going. But Rock, can you just close with this about what kind of how important failure is at the big league level?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but it was kind of something we've talked about over the course of this show, and seeing Jackson come up. And a lot of us think that, you know, him getting brought up to the bigs and struggling at the big league level, getting sent back down. At first, we were like, all right, if Jackson comes up, you need to play him every day. Like, sending him back down will be detrimental to his progress. But now you look at it and you're like, okay, was this the best thing possible for him? Because he goes up, he doesn't do so well, and now he goes down, and he's, you know, experiencing some bumps in the road. Like, you see it. In June, I believe he hit 222. Now in July, he's hitting 333. So there are going to be ups and downs with how young he is in his baseball career, but no one's questioning the talent or the work ethic that this kid has. He's so talented. I mean, and he's been able to succeed and adjust and adapt at every single level of play. What have you seen from him, watching him? And I know he's going through the throwing program right now, DHing, but what leads you to believe that he's going to figure this out in probably sooner rather than later, and get back up here in the bigs and help this team contribute?
Well, the family connection, that is obvious, is so meaningful. What he has with his dad and others in his family. It's not just his dad. He has a brother who might be the 1-1 pick in a couple of years. I mean, this family is incredible. And Jackson is such a poised, grounded kid. I found in several interviews with him now. I told him in spring training, kid, you are handling this so beautifully. I mean, kid, every national reporter came into Sarasota and made a beeline for his locker. They bypassed the other veterans to get to Jackson. And he had to talk to all of them, and he handled it beautifully. And then we wanted our time. So, I mean, the kid was pulled in 100 directions. He's going to be fine over the long term. Grayson had to go back. Kauser had to go back. Cal Ripken Jr., I think, had some poor stats once in his early career. Many big names early on struggled. It is normal. The outlier is the kid who comes up and rakes from day one and never looks back. That is what we don't often see. Mm-hmm. What we often see is ups and downs. I did an interview with Colton Kauser I wrote about today, and this kid is also so smart and savvy about the process he's going through and learning from failure, because they don't fail in AAA very much. So this is the first time. It's like when Gunnar went 1 for 31 in Aberdeen, I interviewed him in Bowie, and I said, kid, I guarantee you've never gone 1 for 31. What was that like? And he just talked for 5 minutes about how it was good for him long term. And he learned, don't change everything. Don't panic. Show up with the same approach that got you to where you are. So Jackson will be fine in the long run. And I can't wait for the day it happens because he's such a great kid. He's so grounded. The Orioles have done a great job in not only getting good players, but good people. And that means something in a major league clubhouse or in a minor league clubhouse. It just does. And I saw it in Aberdeen. Kids were telling me, I love playing with these guys. And they're winning games. They scored 8 runs the other night in the 9th inning. I mean, they have a great chemistry. I felt good being around the Ironbirds like I do being around the Orioles and the Bay Sox. And that makes me feel good as a lifelong Baltimore guy who grew up loving the Orioles, that we're in good hands, guys, not just this year. But, man, let's get on the wave and ride it because, you know, the fans have waited for this. They deserve it. Oriole fans are great fans, and they're in for some fun here for a few years.
Steve, can you get in on some motivational speaking for Orioles?
That got me so fired up. Thank you.
We got to get like some theatrical music behind there, Steve, right there, because the passion. But in all seriousness, like that is you hit the nail on the head with it. Baltimore fans are very passionate. They love their teams. They love their Orioles. And I know for you live it. That's why I can sense that passion. You cover the team, but you care about the team, and it makes me happy. Zach was going to run through the studio wall right there.
Yeah, right there.
But that's what you want to hear with an organization, that things have changed, and it looks like this is something that's going to not just be a short-term lasting situation. They're looking at long-term production here in Baltimore. All right, last question, Steve, get you out here. It's controversial, and I apologize in advance. But, you know, you've been to a lot of ball games. I'm sure you've had your fair share of hot dogs at the stadium. Am I right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So this is brought to you by our friends. This is brought to you by our friends over at Stuggies. I think they are in section 69. Now, I think they are. The crab mac and cheese, I love it. But that's a topping to me, Steve, okay? If you were to get a hot dog, you can have condiments or no condiments. Steve, what is going on your dog?
I mean, I'm very basic and very boring. I'm not loading it up. You know, you have a basic like mustard or ketchup. That works for me. That's a hot dog, man. I don't need to bury it under 4 inches of toppings. That just quadrupled the calories. It's already not the best thing you're going to eat that day. So a basic hot dog, man, that's a good dog. At the ball game, you got a brewski with you and some close friends or your family. It doesn't get better than that.
Doesn't get better than that.
But Steve, if you could only pick one condiment, ketchup.
If I could only pick one, it's just mustard. I'm a mustard guy.
Oh, come on.
No relish. Steve was my favorite. Man. I knew Steve was my favorite.
I mean, man, I'm pretty basic and boring. But when it comes to the Orioles, like you said, I am passionate, man. I'm 64, and I'm having more fun than ever. And I told Brandon Hyde, when you guys win the World Series, and I'm gonna be in your office balling. So get ready for that, because I mean, this is my team, my town. I love the fans here. I never tire of walking in that clubhouse. And I've told the players, man, I told Austin Hayes at the end of 2012. Or at the end of 2022, you guys brought winning back. We will never forget you in this town. You turned it around. You brought respectability back to Oriole baseball. You won. We'll never forget you guys and what you did.
I love that. And again, I think that a lot of Baltimoreans, the Birdland community, can feel that. And it's not lost. So hopefully this continues. Hopefully then, Steve, we have more of these conversations about what's going on, and it's a lot of positives, not a lot of negatives. Maybe you can next time say that a plain hot dog is a great option. That was the answer we were looking for. But Steve, anything where people can find you or anything you're working on where they can continue to follow your work?
Yes, massinsports.com, of course, is the website. And I think Rock and I are pretty biased because we are Baltimore guys. We've been around this team forever. We got a lot of experience covering baseball, and we feel like we do it as well as anybody out there. And believe me, there are a lot of really good young kids now covering the Orioles who really are sharp, and I'm impressed with all of them. And but we bring a little the older version and a little experience, new school and old school, and I think we have it covered. And so I'm also on WBAL after. Not every game, but many games. I'll be on a lot this coming week on the post-game show after the broadcasters who do the play-by-play sign-off. About 30 minutes later, I come on with a post-game show. And that's cool for me, too, because that's twice now I work at WBAL, which is, those call letters mean something to me in Baltimore. And Twitter, Mass and Steve. Beyond that, send me a hot dog and we'll talk baseball.
Hot dog and a beer, and you got your way to Steve's heart. And at Massin Steve again on X, Twitter. Steve, I appreciate you. You enjoy the rest of your off day, and I'll see you down at the yard.
All right, guys. Enjoyed it. See you later.
Steve, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
The passion.
Love it.
Guys.
Love it.
I got so fired up. There were 3 times where I got chills. Like the way that like you said, Ryan, the passion that he speaks with, how long he's been around these ball clubs, how long he's been around the Orioles, covering the Orioles. You hear it in his voice, how excited he is, how much these times mean to him. And I love how he puts, he's like, enjoy it. It's what we tell people. This isn't normal what the Orioles have, to have this talented of a team and have this much talent coming up. Enjoy this. I say it all the time. We will look back on this, and these will be the golden days. So enjoy it.
Preach. And if you're new to the channel, I think you would enjoy, and we would enjoy, if you hit that like and subscribe button. It's the Ryan Ripken Show. We do it every Monday and Thursday. And then after every Orioles post game and for Ravens games when the fall comes, you will have the group, the band together to talk on Kevin and Zach Reacts, and maybe Rocco.
Yeah, sometimes
and Rip, of course, we want to push people to the audio platforms as well.
Yes,
Apple,
we need to do a better
Spotify,
job of that.
Wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Doesn't matter how many stars. It could be a 1 if you hate what I say or hate me. It could be a 5-star if you enjoy, Zach talking about the Orioles and doing crazy things after every episode. But for real, we really do appreciate your feedback, because without that, what, Kevin?
That's my thing.
What?
Kevin's the crazy guy.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm proud of it.
Yeah, but you're not talking, so I'm glad you are now.
Well, I could have told you what you were going to say because I knew you were going to say the audio formats. By the way, if you hate Rocco, you can still leave a 5-star review.
Kevin, what did I say?
Thank you, Kevin.
Are we sponsored in audio?
We are sponsored in audio form. But
is this a sponsored segment?
Could be your sponsorship here.
You know what? You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired.
You're fired.
We're going to call it Locked On Audio Reviews.
What?
Anyway. Yes.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
Kevin got me off the rails right now. Rate it, review, get that audio form, your app out, your phone, whatever you're listening on, and just let us know what you think, whether you're watching us or listening through the audio platform. Because, like I said, without your feedback, we can't get better. Well, some of us can, but some of us can't. Kevin.
Okay. That's great. Hey, Zach, I know we went on our Adams Jeep. We did our stateside. Yeah. Did you make sure we went to West Virginia?
No, actually, that's funny. I have it pulled up right here because that's where I was going to go with it next. Great minds think alike.
Well, hop on in there. I'll get ready. I'm ready to go on another road trip. I'm sweating my ass off. Zach, take us up to West Virginia.
Yeah. So for those who want to up in Charlestown races, West Hollywood Casino. What? Oh,
I thought we were going to do it.
Okay, we're getting to that. This is what we're talking
about. Kevin, you did it again. Oh,
no,
my God.
Not me this time.
Okay. All right. So our good friends over at Hollywood Casino and Charlestown Races up in
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
God, so easy.
Okay. Must be 21 or older, but become a Penn Play member and you can get complimentary. Do we like complimentary? Everyone hands up if you like complimentary. Complimentary drinks if you are a Penn Play member. Become a Penn Play member and win. Join Penn Play, the loyalty program that gives you more of the rewards you want, and get started with a chance to win up to $2,000 in Penn Cash when you download the app. We will give you all the link to download below in a few minutes. So much to do out there. We went up there for a show, man, a little bit over a month now ago, and awesome time, just a great experience. Horse racing, we have to get up there for horse racing. We also have to get Kevin his burnt steak, and Rocco is going to watch Kevin eat said burnt steak. But it is a fantastic time, and remember, this is only good in West Virginia. Not in Virginia, Maryland, D.C., or any of that. So only in the great state of West Virginia, where I spent 5 years of my life. It is a cool place. But we will be up there back at it again, and we will let you all know when we go as well.
I just want to point out that Rocco tried to lecture you guys on not messing up the bit.
Mm-hmm. That's part of the bit.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
Yeah, you're in trouble now, Rocco.
It's I continue.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe. And if you just became a member like Andy did,
Andy.
Hey now.
Appreciate you, Andy.
Yeah, keep clapping, Rocco.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin.
No, that was on me. I went back to Kevin too fast. That's on me.
Sorry, Kevin.
Thank you. And by the way, we do have a Ryan Ripken Show Discord. We actually passed 200 members in the Discord officially. What is this number? Up to 206. Ooh. So we actually, and rolling with Rock, actually, who has helped us out a lot with that, actually added in a bunch of new channels. So obviously we still have baseball, football, basketball, all those sports chats, but now there is a new introduce yourself, food conversation. People are there's a pet channel, music, memes, which Rocco is a fan of. And then you have a bunch of others as well. So I'm going to put that link, the right link, in the chat in a second. Stand by.
All right, stand by while we get that. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm still kind of fired up from talking to Steve.
So am I.
Yeah, Zach was like throwing things around the studio. He hit me with I don't even know what he threw at me.
Well, we were trying to get you to check the chat, and you were not. You were locked in.
I was.
You remember you know what I realized is that when we have meetings before the show and I'm not there, and we do this so we make sure that we pay attention during the show. Two things that we talked about before the show here. Don't mess up the bits to the ads, and check the private chat so we're all on the same page. D- for both. Maybe Fs. Maybe just flat out Fs.
I was checking the chat.
No, it was the one time you didn't, because we switched up what we were gonna ask.
Yeah, because I was because I knew I was at the end of the question line, so I'm like, okay, I need to do something real quick. So like I heard you asking about the prospects, and I'm like, okay, when this is done, it's gonna be my turn to ask the trade question. But then apparently we like switched up everything, and you moved me to like the top, and like I didn't realize.
Yeah, so that's why I had to throw them.
So I was strategically, but then the strategy changed.
Yeah, that's great. So. It did change, but hey, you got to adapt, react, and live. You got to live. Hey guys, let's continue on here. I will make sure that we have the Heston and Ben Rice breakdowns there to come out here in the future. I did it on the Holy Shirts and Pants, but it was a little bit too grainy for my liking. So I will make sure that it's more crisp and clear, and you guys can enjoy that. I think Ben Rice is doing great for the Yankees, and Heston Kjerstad, obviously, there's a reason why he's having a lot of success. And both of them are actually kind of similar in their approaches. So I will leave it at that. But one thing, because then I unfortunately, because time constraints here, I have to run a little bit. But I wanted to stay for this because I think this is important. Okay. And maybe we saved the factor crap because we kind of heard that, right? Or do we want to talk about that?
I think Steve hit on it a lot, but do we want to give our opinions? Yeah, I think, and let's all be real. People are going to prefer what Steve says over what Rocco and Kevin argue about.
They do have their arguments, but how about this then, guys? How about this? Interestingly enough, there's some rumors out there that the Rangers could be sellers at this point in time. I'm just saying. But they have won. They were on a winning streak. They were 7 games back. I got to check if that's different than right now, but they're 7 games back out of the final wild card spot. Having said that, if they are selling, guys, I think that is the team that Baltimore could have a little bit of double dipping, if you know what I mean. They could get a reliever and a starter. Now, they are saying that not every single pitcher is available, but right here, this is on what was the account up top? I can't.
MLB Deadline News.
MLB Deadline News. Rival executives expect the Rangers to make Scherzer, Lorenzen, Heaney, Robertson, and Kirby Yates available ahead of the 2024 deadline, according to Bob Nightingale. So kind of what we went into, but the 2 names I'm looking at on that list, if Evaldi's not available, Scherzer and Robertson. Scherzer and Robertson could be the 2 pieces that the Orioles could go and make a move for, and I'll tell you why. You heard Steve allude to that it would take a lot. It would take a top prospect to get Crochet, and I think that's a 25, 26 move, not necessarily a 24 move. I don't think you're going to have to give up one of the untouchables. Guys, thoughts on that? Because that's where I'm at. I think Texas could be the perfect landing spot for the Orioles to go and get some guys that are battle-tested for the playoffs.
I completely agree. And it's weird to me that Nate Eovaldi is not, honestly, on this list. It makes no sense, especially with his contract being up. I feel like he would be the perfect guy for the Rangers to want to sell high on. Obviously, after last year, he pitched so well in the playoffs. People want him on their team down the stretch. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The Rangers, especially with the talent they have, it's not talent that you're going to say, oh, we have to give up the farm for. It's talent that's going to help you, but it's not necessarily we have to give up Basayo. We have to give up Mayo. We have to give up a Kjerstad. Even Kirby Yates really is putting it together this year. I know he's older, but he's returning back to his form. I see Justin even talked about Yates here, but it really does feel like the Rangers are the perfect trade partner right now for the Orioles if they don't want to give up the farm, but they want to get guys that will help you compete and will help you try to win a World Series. Rocco, you got anything?
Yeah, you want to go out and field the best team possible this season, especially because you don't know what's going to happen with Corbin Burnes after this season ends, because he's probably going to test free agency. And everybody we've talked to, the Buster Olneys, the Jeff Passons, even the Tim Kirkshins of the world, I believe all 3 of those guys have alluded to, okay, with him being a Scott Boras guy, it would not surprise them. And it will likely happen with Burnes going to test free agency and getting the best deal possible. It makes sense. Now, would O's fans love to have him here for the long run? Absolutely. Would Burnes love to be here for the long run? Seems like he really likes this place a lot, and he flourishes here. But it remains to be seen. But right now, with the players you have, with the team you have, we talk about the window of opportunity all the time. You have 2 guys, centerpieces or cornerstones, whatever you want to call them, of your franchise that are currently, I don't even know if we want to call this the primes of their careers because they're only going to get better. But for Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, you don't want to waste the window of opportunity that you have with these guys here in Baltimore and with Corbin Burnes, because you're only going to have the 2024 team once. You see guys come and go. It happens with baseball all the time. The Rangers aren't the exact same team from last year, are they? No, absolutely not. So go out there, get somebody, whether it is with Texas, whether it is a Garrett Crochet, if you can. But like we talked about, Rip, with Crochet, you saw what the O's went after Burns and got him for. DL Hall, who was one of the best young lefties in the organization, and then a Joey Ortiz, who was one of the talented young guys in the organization, positional player-wise. That's what you gave up for a former Cy Young Award winner who's been there, done that, comes to Baltimore as a bona fide ace. Whereas, what are you going to have to give up to get Garrett Crochet, who's, I mean, look at his innings right now, and we've talked about this, and it scares a lot of people out there. The innings he's already pitched this season, and you talk about it being a 2025, 2026 kind of thing, I'd agree with you, man. But if they can get Crochet and not overpay for him, bring him into Baltimore, and have him as a solid 2 or 3 option here, where it's a Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Garrett Crochet, by all means, go out and get him. Mike Elias, at the end of the day, is going to make the best decision possible for this franchise, like he always does, to put them in the best position to win. People question him about the Kimbrel move. Look what Craig Kimbrel's doing right now. The guy should be an all-star. Starting pitching-wise, bringing over Corbin Burns, no one questioned that. But look what Corbin Burns is doing. So Mike Elias has made the moves necessary. Trust in that guy because he is going to take this franchise, this team, to the promised land at the end of the day.
Well, and the thing, and you're right, and that's the thing, is Mike Elias has made tremendous moves overall. And the thing for Crochet, though, as well, the reason why the asking price is steep, 2 reasons. One, he's 25 and has team control, so teams are going to hope to keep him. And then secondly, he's the most sought after available pitcher at this moment. So the price tag is going to be so damn high. So it's going to be, do you want to pay that? So that's when you look at other teams here, like Scooball. I don't think that he's made available. He's so talented of a player. The Tigers would be foolish to give him up. So when you're looking at this realm of possibilities, who are you going to go after? Another team I'm going to throw in there that you could a little double dip here for your action. They say that they're not going to be big sellers on these guys, but I would call the Angels about 2 players specifically. I would call them about Tyler Anderson, and I would call them about Carlos Estevez, going out of the bullpen relief pitcher. Those are 2 guys that are having great years. Anderson is older, and he's under team control for 1 more season. I think that that's a fit. I think for the Orioles, and I know it's sexy, I think Scherzer Robertson would be electric for this team. I think that would be on the top of my list if we're looking at Rangers right now. But if you're going to go look at a value, getting 2 players that can help your team, and Zach, you heard me say this, and Rocco, what was the biggest move last year, and he wasn't considered an ace for the Texas Rangers? Who was it?
Jordan Montgomery.
And Montgomery's a great pitcher. Is it safe to say we're not considering him an ace? Right? No. Solid, maybe 3 guy.
I mean, not this year, especially after missing spring training and such.
But with that being said, Rip, continue. I'll say this quickly. The Rangers won the deadline by getting Scherzer and him. Look what they did, and look what they ended up doing. So
right, but then Scherzer was the guy that really didn't factor in to their team. Now, I still like Scherzer on that case. I know people are saying, well, what if the Cubs are sellers? Well, yeah, if Justin Steele's available, like, hell, yeah, kick the door down about who's available. But the question is, who is available, and do you get desperate? That's the biggest thing. Mike Elias does not get desperate on players, and I don't think that's going to start this year. But if he likes a guy, he will go and send somebody, a big name, to go out there. And it was curious that Steve was saying, I wouldn't give up Sam Basayo, but if you are set that Garrett Crochet or a type of pitcher like that caliber is available now, and you think he's an Oriole for years to come, then by all means, you go and make a move. But for the other guys right now, I really think is what's the best value. And I think there's going to be names that we're not talking about, that the other prospects that don't get a lot of recognition. The Orioles have so many pieces, they might not have to sell off if they can't get their high value guy. They might make another Corbin Burns-esque trade in the fall. That's just my thought here, guys. So take that for what you want it to be. I don't think Scooball's available. If Scooball's available, then yeah, you're calling the Tigers and say, I want him.
Yeah. Sorry, Rip. I thought you were done. Continue.
That's it.
No, I'm saying, and you said this from the start with the Orioles are going to make a move at this deadline, but you think I can't remember if you said the biggest splash is going to be this offseason in free agency. Like you can see them really making a big splash and maybe doing something, maybe not of that magnitude here. It was, correct me if I'm wrong. You said something along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that if another high-end pitcher isn't being made available, then they're not going to overspend or overvalue a pitcher. That's what they're not going to do. And that's what I'm looking at. A Scherzer Robertson, I could see a multitude of pack of players that could involve maybe it could be one of the 4 or 5 that could say untouchable, but I think it could be a combination of Norby, Beavers, Fabian, some other highly touted upside players. And I think that's where people have to look. Now, again, and it's not saying that's what I would do, but I do think that Mike Elias is going to look at how can I get a value on guys. And people that are wondering about Scherzer's contract is going to be eaten up by the Rangers most likely. And it's like $12.5 million. Tyler Anderson on the Angels is $13 million for next year. For guys that are very good starting pitchers, that is a price that you'd be willing to take on the value. Now, Skubal and Crochet, yeah, you better pony up because those guys look to be frontline guys, and those don't grow on trees.
Yeah,
right?
No, yeah.
Kevin Ostreicher grows on a tree. That was in the Ryan Ripken Report study.
Bush.
He does.
Yeah.
We also have to factor this in. This is the first season and off season with new ownership. We don't know what that spending is going to look like. We can assume that, Mr. Rubenstein may open up the checkbook, but we'll have to wait and see. It will be a wait and see type thing with what is going to happen. But this guy's a fan of the team. I mean, he's been a fan of the team for all of his life, and he seems like he really cares and loves baseball. And could be wrong, but I think Mr. Rubenstein is going to want to do whatever it takes and make those moves necessary to bring a World Series here back to Baltimore. I mean, he seems like he really loves interacting with the fans, being around, throwing hats, doing dances on the dugout. So I think right now, Birdland, you are in a great position right now with the ownership group that you have and with the general manager that you have here in Baltimore, because it's special and it could lead to big things going forward.
I agree. And look, there's a couple of things I meant to Paul had a question earlier. I know it's a little bit out of turn, but thoughts on Kenta Maeda? It's a value pick, right? That's a value pick right there. It's not the sexy move, but it's a guy that can help your team. I'd be on board with that. No doubt about it. Harrison, I'll get to you in a second because I'll give you a standing ovation. Paul, you had a question up here when we were talking with Steve, and I apologize there. Paul, thank you for still listening. If the O's draft a college, thank you, Paul. Oh gosh, my hand keeps falling asleep, or something's happening because this mic just keeps going out. Shirts and pants. If O's draft a college outfielder in the first, sorry, I'm going to mispronounce that. Benj and Waldschmidt in first, does that influence decision whether to include outfielders like Fabian, Beavers, etc.? I don't think it influences it, Paul, to be honest. I think that the Orioles are so stockpiled at the outfield department that one player that they draft's not going to change it, to be completely honest. I don't think that that's going to change anything for the Orioles, but it is a storyline to follow. It's a storyline to follow who they pick, because they've been very strategical and they've been very spot on with who they brought into the system. So, and that's again, like Fabian, Beavers are really solid players. Like they have an ability to be big leaguers, but they are not the top prospects. Like that's just how loaded they would be a higher prospect on other teams' lists, but not in Baltimore.
Crazy.
You would have other team fan bases wondering why Dylan Beavers is not on the major league roster right now,
correct,
or isn't getting a chance. So yeah, those guys are immensely talented.
It's funny because David Hall said that about Kobe Mayo. He's like, on any other team, he's like, Kobe Mayo would already have been up in the bigs.
Yeah, it's true.
Here, there's just a crop of talent, man.
It's true.
Crazy.
Well, Harrison, I know you just said no standing ovation. Well, guess what? Yeah,
we're standing.
Oh, God.
We're standing up. Kevin.
Jesus.
Rocco.
I did not expect for you to sit up that fast.
Kevin, we need a penguin clap.
Rocco, that does not look good.
Can you just keep it off, Rocco?
Yeah.
Go to Kevin.
Kevin, the mic keeps falling. I can't.
Oh, my God.
Oh, sorry. This is ridiculous. See, Harrison, You get 10 memberships and just chaos ensues. So thank you. We appreciate you. And sorry, I will never show anyone that point of view ever again. I do apologize for that. Didn't know that was going to happen.
Yes, you did.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Kevin. Look at it. Okay. What were you doing? Oh, you're helping him out.
Can we get a replay? I didn't see it.
Rip, I thought the same thing, man.
Kevin, there was some highly questionable activity going behind you, but it was all in good.
I was cheering him on.
Sure you were. Well, again, if you're new to that channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Yeah, where's Brad when you need him? Honestly,
the most mature of the group.
Driving.
Yeah. No one puts in more miles than Brad, man. Grinder. But we appreciate that, guys. I might have to sign off here, guys, myself.
Yeah.
Just because, we're over here. It's getting a little bit dark. I will redo the Ben Rice and Heston Kjerstad. But before I go, why don't you guys listen to what Heston Kjerstad said about his approach to hitting? Because I think this is a great segue. I'm going to play it for the breakdown. If you watch the Holy Shirts and Pants breakdowns with me before this show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But let me play to you how Heston looks and views himself as a hitter. And Rock, you'll remember this because Heston was talking about when you were saying, do you think you can hit the warehouse? That was kind of along the lines that he was alluding to.
Yep.
And this was Heston's response about how he thinks of himself as a hitter. So here it is.
There's times in a game where you may hit a pitch a certain way where you never have. Like this past weekend, one of my homers was off a cutter, a ball in. And I'm not known for pulling the ball down the line, or I'm not known for hammering the inside pitch. I live kind of over in the middle of the plate, everything like that. So hitting a ball like that's kind of like, okay, wow, like that's another part of the plate that I'm covering better than I normally do.
So right then and there, I'll leave you guys with that. Yep. Heston Kjerstad is a complete hitter with power to all fields. Ben Rice does a lot of same things. That's why I wanted to break them both down. So you guys enjoy. Hit that like and subscribe button. Zach, Kevin, Rock, what are you guys going to talk about? Do I have to worry about this as I leave?
Without a doubt, you do.
No, we are always clear, calm, rational, and not crazy when we do this by ourselves.
I'm trying to be good, Rip. I'm sorry.
You already are in trouble. You can't talk.
All right.
Thank you guys for only adding to my worries and fears. But guys, all of you in the community, appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe button. The Ryan Ripken Media is going to continue to grow. This is the Ryan Ripken Show we're doing every Monday and Thursday. We're going to have breakdowns that are to be coming out here soon. And then don't forget, and this is going to be a part of Ryan Ripken Media still, Kevin and Zach reacts after every single Orioles game and for Ravens games. They're a part of the ship, part of the crew, but that is going to be on a separate channel just so people don't get everything confused. And maybe we'll find some special things for Rocco if he behaves, but we're working on it.
Thanks, Father Ripken. Appreciate it.
It's just going to be Rocco. That's just the title. And welcome to Rocco.
Yeah.
See you, Rip.
So, all right, guys. Have a day. Have a night. See ya.
See you, buddy. Don't make me dox you.
You know what? You tell Rocco what you use the word dox, and now Rocco can't stop using it.
We taught Rocco what dox.
He doesn't
meant.
know what it means. He doesn't know what it means. Your use this time was better than last time.
No, way better.
I think it means where you tell somebody where somebody lives or is at that point in time.
Yeah, it's like
and they can go
without their consent. Yes,
without their consent, and they can go and meet them. So.
Look what you did. You brought him back.
How do you call it? Docs with rocks. I like that. That's a good name for a channel.
He was the only one that
Doco with Rocco. Doxo with Rocco.
Docs with rocks.
Part of the Ryan Ripken Media empire.
He's so disappointed. You know what's sad? He looks like a disappointed father. And what's even more sad is I'm older than him by a month. That's even worse.
Well,
wow.
Yep.
I'm not sad. I'm
disappointed.
We're gonna have some. We're gonna be working on. I mean, I can be a ridiculous individual. You guys know my Rip After Dark stories, but this is just. I don't know.
Please don't fire me. This is all I have.
Do you want to hear my big brain theory I came up with like last week?
Oh no.
Me on the Ryan Ripken show is just locked on Ravens After Dark.
That's fair.
That is true. Locked on after dark.
Yeah. So there we go.
There we go. All right,
How about no? All right, guys. Have a day, have a night. Holy shirts and pants. We'd love you guys to be members there as well. Appreciate you guys. All right. See ya. Well,
All right. Peace.
See it. That is so true.
Yeah.
Ryan's
Yeah. You
fucking
want to pull up your tweet?
Oh yeah. If you guys could pull up the tweet I have of Kevin just sitting.
That's his big. How would you pull it up?
I don't know.
all right. Why don't you guys? What are you guys going to talk about to finish off the show? You guys just wrap it up.
We have
Heston Kjerstad's his spray chart pulled up right now because it is interesting. He talked about not pulling the ball necessarily. And if you're here, Rip, and you'd want to talk about
he
it
is
for
trying
2
to get
seconds,
out of
or if
here.
you're
He's
trying
just
to get
one.
out. I'll just leave you with this, Rip. Heston Kjerstad has not pulled a home run ball this season. His home runs are to right center. His home runs are to dead center, and his home run is to left center. So that's impressive in itself. The 3 home runs he's hit this year, neither of the 3 have been straight up pulled to right field, to the flag court at Camden Yards or over the right field fence elsewhere.
It's very true, and that's why I've said that his ability and power to how he approaches the game makes him extremely, extremely dangerous. So on that note, I'm out. I appreciate you guys. That breakdown of Heston's coming soon. He's a fantastic player. He's not leaving Birdland. And for now, I bid you adieu on the Ryan Ripken Show. Thank you guys, and I pray for the rest of you listening, and hopefully it goes well for you. Goodbye.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
Okay, let's get this show on the road, baby.
He even brought up 2023, just his lone home run in 23, and it's over the right field fence, Zach, but not like we're not talking flag court when he hit it. Like
that's past flag court.
What's that?
That's past flag court.
What do you mean?
Like that? It was a shot. Like yes, it did not go to. Yes,
didn't go like in that like direction is what I'm getting at.
I'm pulling it up,
power
but
was ridiculous.
Yes, what I'm saying is even when he does pull, it's a shot.
Yeah,
like he's going to get all of it. He does not have cheap home runs.
I'm going back and watching the one towards. Yeah, let's see.
All right, so with Heston Kjerstad, let's get a few more things about him before we jump into our final thing. Just kind of previewing the Orioles and Cubs series. So, with Heston Kjerstad, let's kind of just to start out. Do you trade him, Rocco?
No,
Kevin,
absolutely not.
Love it. All right, so I think we're all kind of in the same realm of you don't trade Heston Kjerstad, but that brings us on to another question of where does he play? Where do you get Heston Kjerstad's playing time? Because right now, he's proven, hey, he should be in there every single game. What say you, Kevin? Where do you kind of see this happening?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be some level of you put him in left or you put him at DH, but it's a little difficult. I think the thing with Heston is they're going to have – this is more of a next year thing to me, where this year you get him in the lineup, you find a place to play him. Next year is where you find his full-time role. And again, full-time role in the MLB, obviously it's a bit different because you're not playing every single one of your games at the same – well, some players do. But sometimes for these guys with like Heston, I expect him to be rotating between outfield and DH. But O'Hearn has that option. I'm sure that is going to be picked up. Should be picked up a year ago. But, the Orioles have this outfield conundrum, right? Using big words right now. This conundrum of 5 guys who all deserve to be playing in some way, shape, or form. Now you get to the offseason and you have decisions to make on Austin Hayes, on Cedric Mullins, on Anthony Santander. That is to me where this is more of a next year question, but it has to be applied to this year as well. Because with next year, we're going to see, I think, a bunch of these young guys come up because I don't know what's going to happen with Tony. I don't know what's going to happen with some of these vets. But at this point, I think you can rotate those guys in, especially because, as we talked about, I think on Saturday, maybe Sunday. I think it was Saturday. We're going to see Adley play a lot more catcher in the second half of the season, where obviously the DH spots have sometimes been taken up by him. I think we're going to see less James McCann, more Adley, and that does free up the DH spot, whether you want to put O'Hearn there, whether you call Mayo up, whether it is Heston. So I think there'll be some level of left in DH for him, but next year we'll see a more established role, where it's this year, it's just he's playing so well he has to be in the lineup in some way, shape, or form.
Kevin, I think you kind of spit facts there.
Boom. Let's go.
I can't lie. Everything, like, yes, I do think next year is the year of Heston Kjerstad, if you want to put it that way, of he's going to be in the lineup on opening day. We all thought that was going to happen this year. Obviously, Cowser outperformed him in spring training, and then Cowser, we saw the beginning of his season. There was no way you could take Colton Cowser out of that spot the first month of this year. Since then, obviously, it's slowed down for Cowser. But Heston Kjerstad, man, every single at bat he's going up there, it feels like, honestly, for me, it feels like every time he steps up there, I'm like, this ball could go 500 feet. Like, he's the first guy. Yes, we have Gunnar. Yes, we've seen Tony. We have these big power hitters, but it feels like this next generation of Orioles power hitters, if you want to throw in Kobe Mayo, Sam Basayo, they have that power that we haven't seen since the prime Chris Davis year, since Nelson Cruz was here, since Mark Trumbo. Mark Reynolds? Sorry, I had to bring him up. He was my favorite player back then. But it feels like, honestly, the power, and just not just power, just how good his bat is, because he's not just a power guy. He will spray the ball to all parts of the field, as Rocco just pointed out. So, yes, I think this year it's get as much time as you can out of Heston Kjerstad. Try to help him in his progress. You try to help him along. You don't want to hurt him by sitting him too long. But it does feel like next year is kind of the year you see Heston Kjerstad play 145 games. Rocco, how do you feel about the whole Heston situation this year and in the future?
I would agree with next year is going to be the year of Heston Kjerstad if he remains here in Baltimore, which he should, which we could all agree on. He should be here in Baltimore for the long haul.
And real quick before you get into that, I think the only guy I would give him up for is Scooball. That's like, in my head, that is the only guy. Everyone else, it's not worth it.
Every pitcher out there has their price.
Yes, exactly.
So it is what it is. You're not going to make Joe Radke happy with that, though. He might.
I know, Joe. I said it for one guy.
Maybe I need to tell
one
him.
Guy.
I'll tell Joe where you live.
Docs.
So he could show it.
Docs,
yeah, exactly.
Man.
Docs time. I don't want to see 3 games go by without Heston Kjerstad in the lineup.
Fact.
I would like to see him, if they can, find a way to potentially like alternate him, like Kevin was saying, with left field and DH. I'd even love to see some right field in there, some left field, right field, DH, like kind of like not necessarily a platoon system, but a system for Heston where he's in the lineup more times than he's not, because this guy's bat you're going to need to rely on. I mean, maybe not need to rely on, but it's going to be a bat that you can heavily rely on when the postseason comes around, because it's so powerful. And he's such a smart baseball player and such a great hitter. And we talked about the setback he had early on in his career. He should have been up in the bigs a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But because of that, he wasn't. He had to work his way back. So you look at his work ethic. You look at what he's put into the game. Then on top of that, you look at the type of hitter he is, the type of baseball player he is, and the power he swings with. Like, this isn't a guy, while he kills the ball, doesn't look like he's trying to when he swings. If he was trying to kill the ball, he would be pulling everything. He's not. I mean, he's simply like the home runs, especially we looked at the spray chart, left center, dead center, right center this year. So to be able to do that as a hitter, it's talent right there. And he's just a smart guy, but also a talented one that, like I said, I don't want to see him out of the lineup when the Birds play more than 2 games in a row at a time.
I'm going to put on my big brain hat for a second. So everybody turn on your big brain powers for this one. But Heston Kjerstad is the 2023 Orioles.
Okay.
What I mean by that is the Orioles arrived in a way that no one thought they would arrive last season. It was an incredible year. They exceeded all expectations. And we see this trend where with Heston, and honestly, a lot of these young guys, they get brought up. Sometimes they struggle or don't get opportunities. They get sent back down. That's what happens when you're an organization with so many good prospects. But Heston has now come up, and I know people expected him to do well. Like, I think everybody understood that he just needed opportunities. But what he's doing right now is incredible. Now, he has to sustain this in order to stay the 2023 Baltimore Orioles. But when I go into next year is the year of, okay, we know who this guy is. Last year, meaning this one, last year for Heston was, a great coming out party. But next year in 2025 is going to be, he's an everyday guy. He will have a more defined role. It's almost like this year is a figuring it out process of, this guy's so good, you got to get him in the lineup. But next year is okay. And then what does that look like if they don't move Kyle Stowers, if they don't move Connor Norby, if they don't move some of these guys? Well, what happens with Tony and Mullins and Hayes as well? That's going to be the conversation, because you can even look on the infield. Well, they have vets there as well. Are they going to just go full on youth movement with a couple of vet additions through trade? Or are they going to keep some of the vets from this team around, add a little bit through trades and maybe a free agent signing or two? But it's the same thing with Heston that a lot of these other guys are going through down in the minor leagues, like a Connor Norby, like a Kyle Stowers, and even some of these pitchers, Kobe Mayo. These guys would be on MLB clubs. These guys would be starting for MLB clubs if it wasn't for how good the Orioles farm system is and how talented they are. But at the end of the day, you only have so many spots on a diamond, so many spots on a pitching staff, so many spots in a bullpen. So that's where, and it goes back to what Steve was talking about, have that farm system work for you. I thought the Orioles, again, executed perfectly that Corbin Burns deal, because they took a surplus and they turned it into a need in a very talented player at that. I know that offseason deals will be different than trade deadline deals, but for Heston, this is a guy that is so quickly moved from, this is a prospect that a lot of teams would want. Maybe you could dangle him as a piece, to this guy is a vital future of this outfield and of this lineup. There's no way you can move him. I don't even know. I mean, is there a guy that's available right now you'd trade him for? My answer is no.
Not a guy available. And that's been my biggest thing throughout this entire trade deadline. I've preached it on Kevin and Zach Reacts a million times. It has nothing to do when people will say, like, we're prospect hoarding or you have to give up players eventually, they can't all play. I agree. We talk about the big four: Jackson Holliday, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, Samuel Basallo. I would say probably one, if not two of them, are traded at some point, maybe within their first year of being on the Orioles. But my biggest issue is you can't trade prospects to trade prospects.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't make sense to just trade Heston Kjerstad to trade Heston Kjerstad because you're like, oh, we have to make a big move. Mm-hmm. So the best guy out there will give you Heston Kjerstad. That's why I say I'd only give him up for Skubal. Yep. Because Skubal, young pitcher, dominating. He's up there with Burns for Cy Young, and you have years of control with him. That's why I'd give him up for Skubal. Anyone else? No. And it has nothing to do with, are we keeping prospects? The Orioles need pitching. The pitchers available right now are not worth Heston Kjerstad. They aren't worth Kobe Mayo. They aren't worth the Samuel Basallo. So that's kind of where I stand. Where are your thoughts, Rocco?
I could see at this deadline, who we view as untouchable doesn't mean Mike Elias in the Orioles front office is going to view those prospects as untouchable. Let's get that straight. Like, we could be really high on a player and say, okay, we like this guy. We want him here in Baltimore for the long haul, like a Heston, like a Mayo. Mike Elias could be thinking something else. Like, listen, you don't even know what I have up my sleeve. And I know people are off the trade Heston. I would agree. I like Heston a lot. I'd love to see him in Baltimore for the long run. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of players. You talk about prospect hoarding. Like, there are a lot of talented players down there on the farm that are not big league ready, but could be big league players and big league stars in a lot of organizations right now and work their way up quicker than they are in Baltimore because of the talent here. And it's tough. So at this deadline, it wouldn't surprise me if we see one of those guys on the move or go for a high-end pitcher, because you look at what the Orioles have now, you look at what they're capable of, and you only want to add to that. You want to add to the talent, you want to add to what you have roster-wise, and you want to build a World Series champion, not a World Series contender. This team, we know they can contend for a World Series. You want to go out there and win the whole damn thing. And to do that, you need a great starting rotation, a healthy starting rotation. And I think, whoever they add at the deadline is going to help that cause. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and I love I love how you started this. Sigh, Rocco is right again. Elias is good with that. You don't know what's up my sleeve stuff. He is.
I'm gonna make a compilation of how many times Aviator says that. I love it.
You guys, these two saw my reaction while Steve was talking, and he talked about last year's trade deadline, and I was throwing my hat. I was throwing my hands in the air. I was fist bumping because he said exactly what I've been preaching over the past 12 months at this point. People called last year a failure at the trade deadline because the Orioles didn't go for the big fish. We have no clue what conversation the Orioles were in on, who they were in on. We do know that they, up until the last minute, were in on Dylan Cease. We know they were in on guys like Justin Verlander. They were in these big-time conversations. And as Steve said, just because you are willing to give up these guys and make these big moves doesn't mean that it's going to get to the finish line. So that's the biggest takeaway I had. And hearing it from Steve just reconfirms it, that Mike Elias wasn't sitting back last year going, oh, we're playing with house money. Let's just go grab Jack Flaherty and let's go see what we can do. They were trying to go get that big move that separates them from the pack, that big move that you go out there, you say, okay, Dylan Cease, okay, Max Scherzer, okay, Justin Verlander last year, that guy that's going to go out there and change this rotation before it got Corbin Burns. The Orioles were in on those talks. The other teams just have to agree to them too. So I'm not worried about Mike Elias not going for the big dog. I think he's going to have those conversations. We've already had reports that he's called the White Sox about Crochet. You got something?
Yeah. When you're done.
No, you got.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, the thing that Steve said and kind of resonated, and I think this goes for every team, but most of the trade negotiations that happen, you don't hear about.
Thank you.
Do you know how bad for business that would be if every single trade negotiation was put out there somehow and it was all confirmed and true and like you heard everything? Players would want to leave left and right because it's like, oh, you put me in a trade and you don't value me enough to keep me around. And, okay, then I don't want to be here. That's exactly what it is. And it goes for every team, every sport, where general manager, if there is a lack of movement, that doesn't mean that team is not specifically looking at upgrades. It still means they're looking, trying to get the best team that they can get around, but there are levels to it. And what you said about Zach not trading prospects just to trade prospects. If people want to trade and everybody's talking, all right, we want to move. And then they acquire, I don't know, who's not playing well. Who's not playing well right now?
For any team?
For any team. Like, who would you not want on the Orioles?
Like, let's say they went out there and they made a deal. And
Thiago Vieira. Let's say Thiago Vieira. Let's say they traded Connor Norby for Thiago Vieira because the Orioles needed bullpen help. Oriole legend, by the way. But
continue, then I'll tell my story.
Bring him back.
Yeah, they trade Connor Norby for Thiago Vieira. Obviously, would not happen in any realm. But if you trade a prospect for a guy, and that guy is not up to the standard of the prospect you're moving, that's a bad deal. I would rather make no deal than a bad deal. I think a lot of people would, but there has to be the perfect timing of, does this impact the club positively in the short term? Does it impact them positively in the long term? Are you giving up someone that you feel like you can live without? And if you can't, are you getting back a guy that you think can have a long-term positive impact on the team? So look, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors. Obviously, we'll have a much better idea of what actually happens after the trade deadline, and we will praise and criticize as needed. We'll be objective about it, but you don't just make trades and make trades. You don't trade prospects and trade prospects. And something that Elias, that all these guys want to talk about football, Eric Costa, basketball, hockey, whatever, all over the place. These guys are looking to make moves, but you can't just continue cycling guys in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out of the organization, because that makes your organization look bad. Plus, with the development the Orioles have had success with, there is a path for some of these young guys. There's just not a path for all of them.
Yeah, and real quick, before Rocco will get your point, we talk about Eric DaCosta. We'll bring this up with Eric DaCosta. Pretty well known as one of, if not the best GM in football, right, Kevin? And not just
one of the best, for sure.
Not just us. When you talk to scouts, when you talk to other teams' GMs, he is always seen as one of the best at doing this.
Yep.
How many times do we make that joke of the almost Ravens team?
True. Not a joke. Not even a joke, though.
No, it's not. It's literally
yeah.
all these stars that people were like, oh, they were almost Ravens. And people get mad at Eric DaCosta for not making it happen, whether it's a trade, whether it's a free agent. It's like they were in on him. They wanted him. They were going to get him. He was a top priority. Just because he chose to take the money or less money elsewhere because a team thought they got better value otherwhere doesn't mean that they're not trying. It's the same thing with Mike Elias. Mike Elias went out there last year and tried to get an ace at the deadline. He tried to get a big bullpen arm at the deadline. Just because it didn't come to fruition, because it didn't make it to the finish line, people are like, oh, well, he's not trying. It's the same thing. These guys go all out. They're going to try to win these games. They're going to try to go win a World Series. Rocco, what we got?
Regardless of what Mike Elias does at this trade deadline, there is going to be a ton of overreaction.
Without a doubt.
Even if he lands a stud, there is going to be that side of this fan base that goes, we overpaid, or we gave up that prospect, or this happened. It's just bound to happen. Let Mike Elias do what he does best. He's probably cooking up ideas right now. And they're going to, I have a really good feeling. I mean, I think everybody does, that they're going to get something done at this deadline that is going to put this team in the best position possible to go out and win a World Series. And if they don't, then we go from there. Then we're going to talk about it. Then we're going to Zach and Kevin react right off the bat. But I truly think that something good is going to happen here in Birdland, not only just at this deadline, but in the offseason as well. I think the future is super bright. We've said that before. They're building off a 101-win season, and this team is already a World Series contender. They are going to make the moves necessary to put this team in the best position possible to win the whole thing at the end of the day.
Here's another thing. When you were talking about a trade, especially in season, and we've talked about this, there are other teams competing with you to get those guys. There are other teams, if you want to talk about it from the Orioles' perspective, other teams that need pitching. So when you talk about a Crochet, a Fetty, a Severino, whatever guy you want to talk about, there are going to be other teams that are also calling and saying, we'll give you this. And the Orioles can go prospect for prospect with anybody. If they want a guy, they can get a guy because they have the best farm system in baseball and the prospects to make it happen. But it's a matter of how do we go? And yes, I know
Uncle Mike is watching this.
I know he's in my ear right now.
Yeah,
no.
we actually he's in the room behind us. He actually watches everything.
But no, I mean, it's the point where, let's just say Orioles and Yankees, just to say it. If the Orioles offer a certain package for, I don't know, let's say Garrett Crochet, and then the Yankees come back and say, well, we'll top that and we'll give you this. The White Sox go back and we'll say, hey, we just got this all from the Yankees. It's better. Do you want to give more? And the Orioles say, all right, fine. We'll add in this for you. And then they go back to the Yankees, the White Sox, and they say, do you want to top that? The Yankees say, yeah, we really need this guy. At what point for the Orioles is another team overpaying to the point where you don't feel like that's worth it? Is it worth not giving up those prospects? Sometimes in trades, especially in season, you have to overpay for a guy you want because another team's competing with you. They're willing to go. It's almost like me being the avid eBayer of the group.
I still can't believe that.
it's like on an eBay thing where you can bid with another person, right? But if that price point gets too high, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want the item? How bad do you want the player? It all of life. How bad do you want it? Are you willing to overpay? I think the Orioles have more leeway to overpay because they have the farm system. If they didn't have a great farm system and they were hanging on to like one high tier guy, 2 to 3 mid-level guys, and like a bunch of lower end guys, they wouldn't be able to overpay. But because you have enough guys in your farm system, if you really want a starter, I think it's okay for them to overpay a little bit because they still have enough in the farm system to make up for it. But again, that doesn't mean that you should just overpay for everybody. It's a strategic thing. And about the almost Ravens team, this also even goes into the draft where teams want guys. But I'll go back to, I can't even remember what year it was, 2010, when the Ravens were going to draft Dez Bryant. That was the report. They were going to draft Dez. But the Cowboys knew the Ravens were going to draft Dez, and they traded up one pick ahead of them to take Dez. It happens all the time, every single year. Football, basketball, baseball. Well, I mean, baseball relative. But like at the end of the day, that happens with free agents, with trades, and with drafts in all of the sports. Could you imagine if the Orioles got sniped by the Yankees for somebody in a draft? Could you?
In the draft?
That would be, everybody would go crazy.
Free agency happens and the draft would be crazy.
Yeah.
Let's not forget though, Mike Elias drafted Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson in the same draft. His first draft in Baltimore, back-to-back picks.
First drafts and last drafts of Baltimore GMs, really good.
Yeah. So,
that is a good point. If they want another generational player, unfortunately, Mike is going to have to announce he's stepping down after the draft.
Again, how bad do you want it?
But Mike is handing it off to. He gives it.
Good of the franchise,
he gives the full. He gives all power to Sig Mejdal, kind of like the whole Eric DaCosta Ozzy thing.
Oh
like his right hand man. He's like Sig's taking control of the entire team.
Could be.
All right, Rocker, you got anything? I thought you.
No. I was just saying, like, he's been a part of a World Series franchise before, franchise that a lot of baseball doesn't want to talk about, but he was successful there. He's been successful so far here, and just trust Mike Elias, trust in his process. And I think good things will happen. It could be easier said than done sometimes to just trust a GM or trust an owner. But this fan base is blessed with a great owner, with a great GM, and a great front office, great scouting department. One that got Albert Suarez in Baltimore after he hadn't pitched in Major League Baseball for 7 years. So that's just what you're working with right now, and big things to come going forward.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Cubs series, and we'll do that really fast before we get out of here. But something I do want to talk about, which was just announced, the Orioles are doing this again. You can buy the package to access every home game in August and September for $65 per month. Shout out Freddie, the O's fan up here. It is $5.91 per game is what it comes out to. I'm going to be doing this.
Great deal.
Yeah, that's got to do this nose thing again because there we are. We're back, baby. It just feels like if you're going to go to the yard, think about it, $65 for an entire month. If you buy, let's just say you go weekends, 3 weekend games, that's $65 right there. Now, these are standing room only, so obviously that is part of the reason that's cheaper. But, man, to get people in the stands, get people there, the yard is going to be bumping people come August, come September. You are going to want these tickets at your disposal when it comes down the stretch and the Orioles have the opportunity to clinch a playoff berth, to clinch the division potentially. You are going to want to be there. So get on top of that. Let's pack the yard, baby. Now, on to our final thing. We'll go through it really quickly. Orioles versus Cubs, kind of just how are we feeling? The boys are back in town. If someone could give me, I know Burns is starting game 2. Do we have?
Yeah, I'll pull them up quickly.
Kramer, Burns, Suarez.
Kramer, Burns, and
which
Suarez.
There was controversy on that, by the way. But Cubs have 3 TBDs. We don't know.
Yeah, I knew Cubs were all TBDs.
But it's Kramer, Burns, and Suarez. Yes.
This is like the ESPN probables for the Cubs right now. It's Imanaga, it's Tyone, and it's Steele. Those are the projected.
Those are the aces too.
Everything we just said could be subject to change, and then we just shoot myself in the foot. But that's what they got right now up on ESPN.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit. The Chicago Cubs are coming in 5-5 in the last 10 games. This is a team that over the next month or so is going to decide whether or not they are selling. It feels like, though, every time you bring up any NL team, that's the situation they're in. But this is definitely one of those games where it almost reminds me of, and I know people aren't going to like this, it reminds me a little bit of the Astros series. Like, yes, things are going really well for the Orioles, but this Cubs team is desperate to try to save their season. So do not be surprised if this Cubs team comes in here with their hair on fire, thinking if we don't turn this around in the next, before the All-Star break, let's just call it is, before Sunday, All-Star break happens, boom, All-Star break is over, you have 10 days before the trade deadline. And the All-Star break is in what, 4 days, 5 days now, 6 days?
Wow. Yeah.
So the trade deadline is coming faster than people think. And especially when you take out a whole week of games, the Cubs are going to want to put a statement, if anything, to their own team, to their own organization that, hey, do not sell these guys. Do not get rid of Steele. Do not get rid of Bellinger. Do not go out and give away our top guys because we want to go and compete. So any kind of just original thoughts in here before this series, maybe things you want to see?
Yeah, the Cubs are a team that their offense has generally struggled this season for the most part.
Yes.
They're bottom 10 in the league in a lot of categories. Now, they do walk a lot. They're fourth in the league in walks, so they're on base. You know, their average is not very good. They don't hit a lot of homers, but their on-base percentage actually is pumped up by the fact that they walk a lot. And the Orioles, they don't necessarily walk a ton of guys. I mean, we know some games they do, but based off of league, they don't. They're let me do the stat quickly. The Orioles, I would love to see. I screwed it up. Hold on. Here we go. They're ninth. Tied for ninth in the league in walks. So to me, I think this is just don't let the Cubs on base. I would really like to see them hit with runners in scoring position. I think that would cause a lot of people to maybe have a little more confidence, and myself included in that, because we are now in a trend with this Orioles ball club where they load the bases. And actually that stat that I think I sent it in the Discord. Silence.
Real quick, speaking of runners in scoring position right now, the Chicago Cubs have the 9th best pitching with runners in scoring position, average-wise, that is, average-wise. So, yeah, this is going to be another tough test. We've screamed it, Kevin, from the mountaintops. It feels like we just want consistency. We're not asking for 10 runs every game. We just, when the opportunity is there to get guys in with less than 2 outs and a guy on third, we should be getting him in almost every time, and that's the tough part. It feels like there's a lot of hero ball, a lot of guys going for the 2-run shot where just a lazy fly ball gets that run in. So
yeah, I'm trying to present my I have the graphic. It's bases loaded less than 2 outs.
Yep.
Is the graphic here. I think here we go. Can you see it?
Yep, that's exactly.
Okay.
Yep. I was going to bring that up the other day.
Yep.
Perfect.
So Brooks Gate, shout out. How many times each team has had the bases loaded in less than 2 outs, and how many of those didn't score a run? So obviously we can see here the Orioles did not score, way at the bottom down here, on 59.3% of their opportunities with bases loaded less than 2 outs. They've had that 27 times over the course of the season, and they did not score on 16. Obviously, you do some quick maths there, and that means the Orioles have only scored 11 out of 27 times. I was a little scared to do that math. 11 out of 27 times the Orioles have scored there. They only are trailed by the Athletics. So that's not a good number, especially for a team that has such a high-powered offense. It just that can't happen as consistently as it does for this team. So.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, wanted to bring up this comment by Steven saying series is kind of big for them. Their local reporters have been talking about their selling, especially this far back. Yeah, so right now the Cubs are in last place. They are 11 games back in the Central, the NL Central. But it is one of those things where the NL is so close at the bottom. It's so close at the bottom where teams, and it's what, Kevin, we've talked about it, it's the scary part for a team like the Orioles, where is there too much false confidence if a team like the Cubs suddenly runs the table and wins 8 of their next 10, gets hot a little bit, gets it to win within, before the trade deadline, they're sitting maybe 5 games out of the wild card, 4 games out of the wild card. And then they're like, oh no, we can go make this. We can make a run for this. And then they don't sell. So yeah, I agree, Steven. It is a big series for the Cubs, especially their players that don't want them to sell. Rocco, you got anything that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I'm very, pretty pumped up for that first matchup because you have a guy in Shota Imanaga who was, his ERA was at the top of the MLB for a while, and I think it got as low as 0.78. So he was just shoving, start in, start out. But lately he's proven he's human, which is crazy to say because at the beginning of the season, this was not a human being. This guy was pitching like he was from a different planet, how good he was, how like the stuff he was throwing, it was just unhittable. Now that ERA is up to 3.16, which isn't terrible by any means. But for the Orioles, you want to give Shota Imanaga one of his worst games, not one of his best. Don't let him come to you and attack you. You got to attack him with the bats, and you got to make the most of the opportunities against him. Because if you let him have his game and go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, he's going to hurt you. And you're going to have to rely on, like we've seen the Orioles do before, try to rely on runs late in games if the Cubs offense is able to produce in game 1.
Yeah, I think this first game is an Imanaga. Talk about a guy who
unreal.
To start this year, everyone was talking about Yamamoto, and rightfully so. Obviously, he's dealing with some injury right now. But Imanaga he was looking like he was going to be a top Cy Young contender. He showed up into the U.S. and said, no, I am a legit top pitcher in this league.
30 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
When he's making his MLB debut.
He is probably going to win he potentially could win Rookie of the Year at 30 years old, which will be just an incredible feat for him. I'm interested to see. Let's go, not too big of predictions, but what do you see happening? I'm going to say the Orioles take 2 of 3.
I would agree with that. I think that's the easy answer right there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a cop-out, but I just don't see the Orioles sweeping a team that's this desperate. They're going to try. The Cubs will, if they get a lead, they'll go all out to try to win this game. Kevin?
I'm going sweep. I'm doing it.
Fire me up, Kevin.
We're bringing the energy. I'm going sweep. Let's go.
Kevin, that would be huge considering that the upcoming series afterwards with the Yankees is the biggest series of the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Those 3 games, they're not going to make or break the division, but it's sure going to feel like it with the fan bases going back and forth. You might have some carryover from that last series. You never know. Like I said, the Orioles are a clean team. They're not a team to throw at anyone, but you saw some fireworks in that series in the Bronx, and maybe we could see some more fireworks at Camden Yards. I like the chippiness. I do. Yeah. I love when teams don't like each other. It makes baseball more fun. It's not always the happy-go-lucky. When you're competing with that team for the pennant, when you're competing with that team for the division, and they have been king for so long, if you think about what the Yankees have done in the World Series titles they've won, and the Orioles are like, you know what, guys? We're here now. This is our time. And they're showing it. And I think they're going to show it in this series as well. But first, they got to take care of business with the Cubs, do what they do against the Yankees, and then head into the All-Star break on a high note. That would be great. And I think fan base, franchise, everybody would feel like they're in a good position going forward if that's the case, rather than having a sour taste in your mouth, just waiting to play baseball again.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you slightly on that one part. I think the series versus Yankees can make or break New York. I don't think it makes or breaks the Orioles season. I think it 100% could break New York's, because let's look at right now. As we stand at this moment, the Orioles are 3 games up, and the Yankees are spiraling. Let's just call it what it is. 5 wins in the last 20 games. I think they've only won 6 of their last 23. This team is not playing good ball. And if you go into the All-Star break, let's even say they enter that game, the series at still 3. Let's say there's no movement at 3. And then the Orioles go and sweep them. Now, that's asking a lot of the Orioles to go sweep a very, very good New York Yankees team.
Man.
But let's say that. it's hard for me with the way the Yankees are playing. If they're down 6 at the All-Star break, for them to mentally not start panicking and not be like, we have to go make moves. So yes, is it going to decide the division? No, but I could very well see it really starting to worry and almost break that organization right now that feels like they need something positive. It feels like this is a big opportunity for the Orioles. If they want to take advantage of this, go and step on their throats. I'll just call it what it is. Go step on their throats. Okay, before we get out of here, any last thoughts? Anyone?
Yeah, I wanted to play a quick game.
I just wanted to let everyone know we do not know what this game is about to be.
No,
we are finding out what he's about to say as you are. So
are we gonna like this game, Kevin? Or are we gonna?
Yes, it is more so for me when I'm doing something crazy on Kevin and Zach Reacts, and I have to have a video to play while I'm eating something, I guess. But let's go through some, because you mentioned, Zach, we're going to find out a lot about which teams are buying and selling over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Let's play a game right now of who we predict will be buyers or sellers, and then we can revisit.
Shit, Kevin, I kind of like this idea.
In a couple of weeks, right before the trade deadline, and see if we were correct.
I love it. Love it, Kevin. All right, let's do it.
Let's go Tampa.
Sell. They're selling.
Yep, they have to.
They need to sell the team.
It's a different conversation, but yeah. Toronto.
Sell everything. Sell everything you can. They're just like, what sucks is they have like talented players there. So I don't know. Like,
if I'm Toronto, I go out and every piece that I think can get value, I would sell off.
Yep.
And then every piece I don't think can get value, I would sell off, because I don't see where that team.
I thought that was going to the
I legitimately, when I look at their team, like there's so much talent. How are they not winning?
Yeah.
Like they just need to restart.
I agree.
They need a hard restart. So yeah, sell.
Yeah. Getting spicy with Boston.
Buy. They should buy. They should absolutely buy. Zach, there's 7.5 games.
No, I want to agree with you. That's why I'm like, I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they should be buyers 1,000%, because we talk about the 2-team race, Orioles, Yankees. If the Red Sox do something big at the deadline, they could make it a 3-team race going forward.
Yeah. No. I don't think they ever make it a 3-team race for the AL East. But this is a team that very well could make a run at that.
That's
second wild card spot.
The second, I would even say they are in a very good position to run at the third, but they could definitely, I could see them making a move to put them over top into that second or first wild card spot.
Yes, I'm thinking more postseason. I don't think they're going to go out and win the AL East.
Yeah, no, but yes, I agree.
Thank you for clearing that up. I'm saying more. Yeah.
Kansas City.
Oh, that's a tough one. You have to buy. You have to buy. You have to buy.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one.
That's honestly a really tough one, because I could even they shouldn't sell. That's how I'm going to put it. They shouldn't.
So
sell.
You're standing pat.
Yeah, I just don't see a player available right now unless you go get a big name like a Vladdy, like that you can have for years. I don't think buying right now is their way to go. I would just kind of stay pat.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'm
not selling.
If we're gonna go buy or sell, you got to go buy. But if you can stay in the middle and like continue to build, because pitching wise, they're in a pretty good position right now.
That's what I'm saying.
You look at the talent they have offensively. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. leading the way right there.
Salvi.
Exactly.
They have pieces.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't convince myself that they should buy, but there's no way you should sell with that team.
Yeah.
Justin said, I think KC nibbles. That's fair.
That's a great.
Yeah.
That is fair. They could go out and cast the line and see if anyone bites. Then you go from there. You have that conversation. I think we could see that happen.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Detroit.
Oh, they should sell.
I think the question for them is, do they sell everyone but Scooball?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like
do they keep Scooball, have him be the building block, and just get rid of everybody else? That's the thing.
Or you part ways with him as well, as talented as he is.
You could. There's still a possibility.
See if you can get like a prospect haul, but it stinks for the Tigers, man, because they had 2 number 1 picks. Casey Mize was the number 1 pick. Just didn't
Spencer Torkelson.
And Torkelson as well. And it's just like,
ain't done anything. Yeah,
like, what do you have to show? Like, and then you look at, and they weren't too far off with the O's with team wise. Like, okay,
Spencer Torkelson was drafted number 1 and number 2 was Heston Kjerstad.
Exactly. And then Casey Mize, I think, was number 1 before Adley Rutschman was.
Yes.
So you're looking at a team that is still in the basement, where if they were able to build the right way, they'd be in a good position right now too. And they're just not.
Yeah.
They're simply not.
It's very similar to Kansas City. I'm going to go bold. Detroit should sell. And I say that includes Scooball. I don't think in a position that they're in, a pitcher who at best wins you 30 games, he's already winning them 60% of that. So it makes more sense if you can get a haul for him. There's a lot more than just this team needs just one guy. This team needs a lot. And if you can get I'll throw it out there, you could get a package of Heston, Norby, few other down, we're talking the Seth Johnsons, like that helps Detroit a lot more than just having Scooball go out there and dominate every 5 days, and then the other 4 you're like, well, we'll probably lose.
Yeah, and for those who were saying, oh, what, Zach, you just said Heston? No way. Look, even if it's not Heston, you have to give up something to get something.
I've said it before, Scooball's the only one I would give up any of the top 4 for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I know we've talked about it, but Texas.
So.
Yep.
I think, we're all in agreement there. The Mets.
It's like which Mets team are we talking about, Kevin? Are we talking about
that's the question? That's the question they have to answer.
7 or 8 wins, or are we talking about the team that is a laughing stock of baseball?
I'm gonna go by.
Wow. All right.
I'm looking at the.
You gotta buy.
You have to buy.
I don't know if you can sell. I don't know if you can sell.
Well, you sold everyone last year.
So when I consider sell, I'm considering them trading Pete Alonso. That's selling in mine. Yeah. And I just don't see them. They're in striking range.
We're not disrespecting Grimace, Casey.
Yeah, no.
Never,
the Grimace Mets.
We would never disrespect Grimace.
Never.
Yeah. Yes. You keep Grimace, sell everything else. Thanks,
sell everything else.
Yeah, you do. That's like.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeez. This one might be a little bold, but I know they've made some changes with prospects recently. Washington.
So.
I agree.
Hold on. You said what?
Washington.
Nationals.
We're talking about the Nationals?
Yeah.
I think they should. I think they should sell and start to build off of who they've brought up.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that they can do right now is get that. It's what the Orioles were fantastic at doing during 2022 when you started to get the guys up and you started to see that, and I think honestly, someone said up here about Kansas City being the 2022 Orioles. Justin right here. 2024 Kansas City Royals are like the 2022 O's. I think the Nationals are in a very similar situation. They're starting to see those guys come up and produce, but at the same time, it makes no sense to try to win right now. Like, this team is very good. They're in.
Are we going to go through every single team?
Well, the ones that are on.
No, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the White Sox.
All right.
Yeah. They're buying. They're buying, obviously. They're buying, obviously.
Yeah. I love it. Nats, get a plan. Get a plan. Don't buy or sell. Get a plan.
There you go.
I think you can sell certain
like
veterans,
Harvey,
but
and,
you're not gonna get rid of they have a great core. And you know what? If they do sell at the deadline, their fan base might be like, what the hell are we doing? Like, we're actually getting decent, and hope lies ahead for this franchise. It's like,
where have I seen that before? But the 2022 Orioles with Jorge Lopez and Trey Mancini.
There you go.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. You get rid of the guys that the fans are going to go, why did we get rid of him? Because then 2 years down the line, you got Cade Povich and Yennier Cano, and you're like, wow, and Seth Johnson, and you're like, wow.
Did we just finish each other's
sandwiches?
Sentences.
Yeah. Good job, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job. All right. St. Louis.
Sell. Yeah. Well, sell. No, you can't. You can't.
The moves they made in this offseason
I'm so confused on St.
were
Louis.
kind of like, it's like they wanted to build up with all these like older players, like these like really just like especially pitching wise.
It's all old.
I don't
it's
know.
All
yeah,
old.
they're all. It's like I don't know what the thought process there was with a lot of the guys they brought in. But they did. But you know what? They're second in the NL Central because of it. So they're in. I don't know, man. Maybe buy and add some youth if you can.
Do they nibble?
I don't even think you do that. Like I hate their position. I would hate to be in this position because they have young guys coming up. The Mason Wins, Jordan Walker's. Like they have guys that have shown like they're younger and can win games. But like what? Why? Like
the fact that they're in a good position with like the players they brought in, not knocking any of it, but like they really went after an older crowd.
Yeah, they went.
It's not a sustainable core. Is what it is.
So maybe they're just going all in for like the next 2 seasons and hoping like, okay, this is gonna work out. So
maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? Pittsburgh.
Sell.
Yeah.
Don't buy. Just don't buy.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Are you same thing, Rocco?
Just don't buy.
Cincinnati.
Same thing. Don't buy. Just don't buy.
Stand pat.
Stand pat. Sell off little things. Don't get rid of your core. Don't get if you have a guy here and there that can get you a mid-level prospect, get rid of him. Who's not under contract, but don't sell the farm.
Yeah. Chicago. Just talked about it a little bit.
Jesus. Okay.
It's funny. It's funny. Sorry, I'll stop saying it, Julie.
All right. What? Kevin?
Cubs, Chicago.
Sell. I don't see them climbing out of this.
Yeah, I think this is a very decisive series.
Literally, that's what I'm saying. Like the Cubs are playing for their season. I feel like right now.
We're talking Cubs, Justin, not White Sox.
Yeah. The White Sox are selling.
When the White Sox are buying it, no.
Yeah. What if
White Sox are going all in?
The White Sox want Gunnar and they're giving us prospects, actually.
Literally.
Nibble.
Okay. Good job, Rocco. San Diego.
Buy.
I think you have to buy.
You have to. You've established that you're. I mean, they already traded for Luis Arias. Like they're buying.
Yeah.
They've already established their buyers.
You just don't want to make a crazy trade like you did with Soto and have it not pay out.
What a bad return. What a bad.
Do they have anybody else on the farm to give up in trades now?
Well, the guys that they
I know. I'm just
got from Soto, but no, I think they're in a great situation to buy.
Yeah.
And you say just don't make any crazy trade. That's literally what San Diego does.
That is their MO.
That's literally like they don't
they
care.
do.
Like they are going. No, like I will almost guarantee they're going to make a trade.
You know what it reminds me of?
Makes you go, why?
It must be like something in the water in California because Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, didn't he wear the shirt that said "F those picks"?
Yeah, that's literally F those prospects.
They just don't care. They just don't care. Yeah,
they're like, cool,
whatever.
We'll take this guy.
It's like obviously you can't do the whole pick thing, but it's like screw it. Let's just get rid of everyone.
Yeah,
we don't need them.
Jeez,
take our prospects.
All right.
Arizona.
What a weird
team. Weird team.
Rocco, do you have anything you want to say first? Because I don't.
I mean, you're just taking the floor right there. Arizona right now. Let me see. I'm just checking out.
While you're doing that, Rocco, aviator of the buying teams, who's the biggest competition for the Orioles? Is it weird for me to say Yankees?
No, they're going to be the ones. The Yankees need the most work of any buying team.
I'm probably going to say Yankees.
I'm going to say the Yankees. I'm going to say the Dodgers solely because the Dodgers just seem to want everyone.
I just think the Yankees are going to be desperate, and they're going to make like multiple moves.
Who? Braves.
Well, is that one that we could maybe Braves buyers?
No, they should be.
They
need to be a buyer. They need to go get it. I've seen a lot of people say the Braves are in on starting pitching, so I'm going to say that.
Yeah. I mean, and then we obviously have the obvious ones like Phillies are going to be buying, Brewers are going to be buying, Dodgers are going to be buying, but we don't have to. This is a buy or sell thing. So,
yeah.
You got anything, Rocco, in Arizona?
Yeah, I think Arizona should buy and try to establish and try to get back. Like it's so hard to get back to the World Series, but the fact that they made the run last season, bring in more, add to the core that you already have. If you can, make the right trades, then absolutely by any means, like because they have the talent and they have the youth there to get back. But it's all a matter of. But they also got hot at the right time, and teams also lost to pave their way. I'm not putting like a Mickey Mouse ring on what they did getting to the World Series and representing the NL, but they're going to need more to get back.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and let's round this thing out here. Giants, San Francisco.
I feel like this is the one that everyone is because if they sell, talk about a team with a lot of pieces that a lot of teams are going to want. I mean, Matt Chapman, I hate to say it, he would be perfect in New York. I would love Logan Webb. What, they have Jorge Soler,
if they were selling, oh man, like
they have so much.
Yeah,
like Jorge Soler alone is going to would go to a franchise and be like their centerpiece for the deadline. And all he is a power hitter, but like they have so many of those guys where you look at him by themselves, you're like, oh, he can really help this team. I'm going to say selfishly, I'm going to predict they sell just because I hope they do.
Even a guy who is on the IL right now and who is not having a good season by any means. I mean, you look at his ERA, it's disgusting. But if a Blake Snell were to be made available to some teams, they might bite.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not saying the Orioles. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but now that I rethought about it, I could see it.
Yeah, thanks for just cutting me off. He's 31, so.
Well, I was like, no, and then in my head, I was like, no, maybe Rocco's got a point.
Yeah, I'm not saying bring him here to Baltimore. I'm saying there could be a team.
But I wouldn't
use Blake Snell's services and take him in the rotation, despite the ERA, despite the injuries this season.
All right. Well, I think we had Kevin. That was a fantastic game, Loki.
Thank you. Well, actually, we have a bonus round.
Oh, okay. What are we feeling?
Orioles. How much should they buy?
Why do you do this, Kevin?
How much should they buy?
This is my game show. I'll do what I want.
They should buy less than I buy at Taco Bell on a Friday or Saturday.
That's a very
night.
scary comment you just made.
Also buy more than I buy at I don't know. I'm trying to make analogies right now off my head, but yeah, less than I buy at Taco Bell on a Friday or Saturday.
How does that help anyone when we don't know what you buy at Taco Bell on a Friday?
Well, you saw I did a haul.
Yes, he did that
2
one.
2 Crunchwrap Supremes, 2 soft tacos, nacho fries, a large Baja Blast. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
The Orioles. So you're saying how much are they going to buy?
Yes. How much should they buy? Should they make one trade for a starting pitcher? Should they get bullpen help and starting pitching? What level of a player should they get?
I'm going to go 3 trades are made between now and the trade deadline. The Orioles make 3 trades. One will be a starting pitcher. One will be a reliever. And then,
don't say what I think you're going to say because we're going to agree 1,000%.
No, I'm not bringing in a bat.
What?
I'm not bringing in.
You're not bringing in a bat at all.
No.
Okay.
I think they clear a roster spot.
I think they could.
I just don't, unless it's a part of a trade.
I don't think they need to, but if there's a bat out there that could help even more, that they're like, all right, this person's made available, like let's go get him.
The only guy that I think that would happen to is if you went and got Luis Severino from the Mets and then you added in JD Martinez. But that, like, I don't see them making a straight up trade for a bat. What I was going to say, I meant to say 3 players.
Okay.
Not 3 trades. It's going to be a starting pitcher, a reliever, and I think there is an add-on in one of those where they do a 2-for kind of thing.
Would like to see that.
But that could be a reliever, and hey, maybe it is a bat, but I think it is going to be at least one of them.
I think if the O's go out and trade for a starting pitcher and a reliever and get one of each, I think the fan base will be very not that it's all about the fan base. Sorry, guys. But I think a lot of people would be very happy with what the Orioles are going to look like going forward. Obviously, depending on who those names are. But if you check the boxes of, okay, getting a top-end starter if you can, or even a starter that can contribute, and you can rely on, like in a postseason series, because that's big picture. Getting there is hard, but we fully think that the Orioles are going to get there and know that they're capable of doing that and going even further. If you can get a high-end, top-of-the-line starter potentially, and a decent reliever, that could help out in the bullpen, you could rely on, and that could eat some innings. I think you're in a good shape going forward if you're the O's.
I agree. Kevin, any last questions a part of this game show? Awesome. And thank you for joining Kevin's game show.
Well, I'm still thinking of my prize round. Your prize is you get to win the prize round.
Nice.
What is your favorite game show, and why is it this one?
Thank you all for tuning in to Kevin's.
No, okay. What is your favorite game show? Mine is Family Feud. I like playing the game online.
I love Family Feud, but I think it's also just because it's entertaining.
I'm trying to. Are we talking like the core, like however many, like? So what are the options right now?
Like you can go Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune. I like Whammy actually, what was it? Whammy?
Is Jeopardy technically a game show or is it like a trivia thing?
No, I call it a game show.
Jeopardy, when they do the sports Jeopardy, like I'm locked in. Like they've done that before. Certain categories, like I'll just lock in for it. That's like my go-to. If there's ever like sports Jeopardy, love it. I'm like the king of just like obscure, like weird sports knowledge, and I don't know why, but not if you were to ask me like players that went to college in the NBA from like 2000 and I don't even know, there was like a range. I could name you like 95% of them. Like it was disgusting. So
man,
Kevin Martin, Western Carolina.
Wow.
Okay. So thank you all for joining us today on the right. I don't even know where to go after this.
Okay. Julie clarified. It was Press Your Luck is the name of the game show with the whammy or whatever.
Joe's pressing his luck right now. So you know what I'm going to do. Bye, Joe.
And it's not a real show until Joe gets put in timeout. But
just deleted our whole chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Well, here we go. We all ready?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. We are here Mondays and Thursdays. We have a lot of cool things happening this week. A lot of special guests. Tomorrow, Kevin and Zach Reacts will return after the Orioles postgame show. But for all of us here, that will do it. Have a day, have a night, and we will see you on Thursday for another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show.